How's it going, everybody? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And I do have a panel with me today because we're going to be talking about the Marvel July of 2024 solicitations. And I will let these fine folks introduce themselves. And we're missing one more who I'm sure will be coming sometime really soon. But I'm going to let these folks introduce themselves and where you can find them. So right above me.
Hello, everybody. I am Crisis with a K, your favorite or blogger from crushingcrisis.com, possibly because none of you actually know what a blog is, and so I'm just your favorite by default. But there I do write about new releases. I write about the history and bibliography of Marvel Comics and also some DC and Indie too. But we all know that I love to come here and talk about comic books with the Minties, and I'm happy to be back here with my friends today to talk Marvel solicits.
All right, and to his right is Larry. Who are you, Larry?
I'm Larry. My channel is Larry's Library, where I show off stuff from my library, mostly collected editions, but also single issues sometimes.
What is the single issues you speak of? What is that?
Well, I don't really buy them anymore, but I still have some left. So
I'm curious how many all of us have. I've got a lot left, long boxes. And to his right is.
Hello, I'm Oddfell. I'm a cosplayer, and I come on here to talk about comics. It's always a good time, and I also do toy and statue videos over on YouTube.
Awesome. And right below her is this
Domovac.
gentleman that not only made the thumbnail, but also has been on our channel quite a number of times. Go ahead, buddy. Who are you?
Man. Domovex, content creator by the same name, YouTube channel by the same name. I am the assistant editor of comicreleases.com, your one-stop shop for all up-to-date release dates on collected editions and much more. I also want to give a quick shout-out to my boss, Webhead, on comicreleases.com, because it is his birthday. So happy birthday, Mr. Webhead. And happy to be here, Omar, and thank you for letting me redesign the thumbnail and, well, most of the channel, it seems like. So thank you.
No, it looks great. Thank you. And thank you for just being a big part of the channel here recently, especially. We are missing Curtis, who will be joining us a little bit later. It is my buddy Omnidog's birthday, too. So him and Chris share a birthday. So that's really cool. So Omnidog is out celebrating with the wife and the kiddo. And if y'all have any time, go and say happy birthday to Omnidog. He brings a lot of positivity to the world, if you will. And I am in an undisclosed location. I'm hanging out with Amanda today because people are working on my basement and gutting some of the things in the back room. So they have to cut the power. I have no power. So it would have been a really weird stream. And Peter is kind enough to actually lead today with the July solicitations from Marvel Comics. And before we go any further, a big thank you to David Gabriel and everyone at Marvel for sending us the advanced look at these solicitations. These will be up everywhere. Dom, you were the one to know. When do these normally come up?
These always come out on for the regular public, on the fourth Thursday, usually of every month. But we get them earlier. So fourth Wednesday of every single month are when collected edition and single issue Marvel solicitations come out for the regular public.
Thank you for that. Hey, Super Laugh Hard, how are you, buddy? We have a lot of March birthdays. Myself.
So many.
Oddfell.
Oddfell, with a belated happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, yours. Well, I don't know. Maybe you don't want to say. I'll just say it was some time, and I did wish you a happy birthday, and thank you for being here. Let me get a couple of the super chats, and we can get started. Unfortunately, Jess's health has not been very kind to him on his own birthday. I know that he is secretly listening in, so he better hit that like button. So could you please sing him Feliz Cumpleaños? So hopefully cheer him up. Thanks. I was just
talking about our Jazz. I believe that senior management took him out to lunch. I think that's what happened.
Wait a second. I've been talking to him. You want me? Okay, Feliz Cumpleaños. You know what? You're going to get the 99-cent version of this. Feliz Cumpleaños a blank. Feliz Cumpleaños a ti. Feliz Cumpleaños. What do they say? Panchito? Yeah, that's what they say. I never know. I don't ever get it. We do it at like Mexican restaurants. Panchito. Feliz cumpleaños a ti. That's
We're inching
oh,
ever closer to
release
my
today.
all singing, all dancing version of this show.
We should do a musical
Brian,
episode.
Musical
Oh, you
episode.
can't, buddy.
It's a planet
been a
where
while
their
since I've
language
been
is
able to
song,
catch-
Omar.
What's that?
It's a planet where our language is song.
Oh no, I've seen episodes like that. They never end good. Although the Buffy musical was amazing. It's been a
I've got
while
a
since I've
theory.
been. Oh my gosh! Don't get me started. It's been a while since I've been able to catch a live video, but I want to pay money just to point out I'm still upset that Crisis likes 0 Hour Secret Wars 84, but not Crisis on Infinite Earths. I love that he is that upset. Thank you, Brian. And yeah, he is here, and he look. Here's the thing, Brian. You have to remember, everybody likes bad things, and that's okay, right? It's as long as your catalog and your bookshelf isn't full of bad things. I have a lot of things that I enjoy that seems like nobody else does, like Avengers: The Crossing and Batman Year 2. But I know my boy Larry's up there. He loves Batman Year 2 just as much as I do. Larry? Really?
I have never
You
read
too,
it.
Larry? You too, Larry? Oh, you haven't read it?
He's never
I
read
haven't
it.
read it.
You could
I'm more
blindly
of a
like it.
Marvel guy.
Where is Curtis? Took him to lunch. No, he's out to lunch. I promise. We were just talking earlier. True, I am an AVX fan. Oh yeah, if we could just I'm sure all of us will admit at least one bad book or at least a book that everybody else hates that we enjoy. And it doesn't matter, right? At the end of the day, as long as you like it.
I feel like I have a lot of those.
I know you do. I know you do, watch.
I will say to Brian, don't let anyone take away the enjoyment of a book just because someone else doesn't like it or someone else feels different. As long as you love the book, that's really all that matters, honestly.
That's right. I want to know Larry's secret. What is the one book that you like, Larry, that you hear people bash on?
Well, Extreme X-Men for one.
How
Claremont's
dare they?
Extreme X. Yeah, they do. They trash that a lot. But and I like
Really?
the
I
second
like
half better than the last half. But I mean, the first
You
half
like
better
the-
than the second.
The Salvador La Roca artwork
Yes,
Before-
yes.
Before he went full.
Well, before
Oh,
Corday came in and destroyed the book.
Yeah, that guy was doing like 4 books a month, though. He was insane. Cordy's a
Yeah.
great artist, honestly. I liked his.
I keep
what was
hearing
it,
that.
Soldier
I
X?
haven't seen it, but
Yeah, I like some of his stuff.
Yeah.
Love that my boy Larry is back on the show. He is the panel's Phil Owens, and I love him for it. Yeah, I would love to do a evergreen show with Larry to balance the. We need some classic books in there. He can bring that in. Maybe we'll do some other evergreen show and include you, Larry. I think it'll be fun. Okay, let's. Oh, and Brian's just kidding. Much love to Peter, which I'm sure Peter is not only looking at the chat, but he's looking at the solicits and keeping up with us. I don't know how he does it. And it's
And it
like
is
that's
stupid
mastery.
o'clock here, and the hair and makeup team had to get me ready without waking anyone else, quiet as a mouse. So who even knows what's happening here in New Zealand right now?
Omar, has David Gabriel given you any indication as to when you'll be able to release the new covers and spines for certain omnis we have been waiting for yet? No, right now they're having I know his entire team is really busy because they have the PRH conference and they have another summit that's like back to back. But I promise I will get in touch with him when everybody's back. Omar, you didn't ever vote for Kirby. You are the problem. Yeah, me. The one guy out of 10 is the problem.
Yeah, the rest of us are off scot-free. I don't know. That seems
Yeah,
like
I don't know how you guys got off on that.
I think Odell's always right, I think is what we've mostly established over the course of these evergreen shows, which is why her strategy always wins.
What are we doing here? What are we doing here? We're not even
Collusion,
doing
man. That's what it's called.
You're already siding. What is happening here, Larry? This is why we're Batman team Batman Year 2, Larry. Remember that. Igor Cordy is an amazing artist. Marvel did him dirty with those crazy deadlines. His Cable Soldier X series is amazing. But yeah, that's the one that I think. He also does like paintings. Like he is a great artist, and Claremont loved working with him. But those deadlines really killed a lot of the art. Oh, thank you for that, Ryan. I knew I liked you for a reason, brother. Hola, Omar, mi hermano, and all my fellow March birthday people. There's no better way to spend my 34th birthday evening awaiting my fiance to come back from work than to see all the Omnis I will pre-order. Now, that's an amazing way to spend your birthday. Happy birthday, brother. Wow, this escalate. This went from 0 to 100. Cancel Omar Team Oddfell.
Oh my god, it's a mutiny and I'm not even leading it.
What the? You haven't even ordered tasted books yet. Okay, Peter, let's go ahead and start, and then Curtis can. I hope he doesn't have a flat tire. Let me check the chat.
I know there's some calamitous things have occurred to Curtis on the way
Poor
to the
Curtis.
show.
I blame Omar for the rise of TikTok. No reason why, just cause. Wow, it's like my wife is in the chat and multiplied herself times 5.
I think, no, Omar, I think it's my generation that's the blame for the rise of TikTok. Yeah, I think that's more on me than you.
Yep. My generation was the Blockbuster generation, or whatever the heck. All right, Peter, you're behind the wheel, buddy. Let's get started.
All right, here we go. Our first book here is an omnibus, and it is a pretty recent omnibus. It is the Hulk by Cates and Otley omnibus with this titanic Ryan Otley cover. There's another Ryan Otley cover as well, the DM cover, which is an Otley Avengers cover. This collects the entire run of Hulk 2021, 1 through 14, Hulk versus Thor, Banner of War Alpha, the crossover issue into Thor 26, and material from Free Comic Book Day, Avengers Hulk, and Thor 25. It does not collect the Hulk annual, though, that came out in 2023, because that is part of the next volume.
Yeah, that will be the Philip Kennedy Johnson era. One thing to note about this book is that the is 425 pages, so it is on the small scale of an omnibus, and it is also $75. And that's all I will say about that, because I don't. Last thing I want is somebody at Marvel going, "Wait a minute, that was supposed to be 100." So we'll just keep on moving. But it is, I mean. Out of all the Hulk Omnis and OHCs, this tends to be, I think, one of the smaller ones. It's a little thicker than the, well, you know what? I think it's almost just as thick as the Greg Pak oversized hardcovers, if I'm not mistaken. But 424 pages.
424 is like right in that range of a thick trade paperback or a OHC.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody in the panel read this charming Cates and Otley run?
Yes, I've read the first arc of the run and the Banner of War crossover issues, because that was just the time I was like, I'm going to attempt to read something completely different from what I'm used to Hulk. And for all the people who are like wondering, like, how does this run compare to the Ewing run and the Johnson run that's coming out right now? Completely different, and also completely different in terms of like the bombasticness that Cates brings to the Hulk. If you want a complete different take on Bruce and all of the new things, because it's a complete wash from the status quo that was set up by Ewing, but also trying to delve into the awesomeness that is Ryan Otley arc. This run, I think you should check out. It probably is for you.
A great cover, for sure.
I need to. When describing this run, I'm not going to lie. It is Hulk as a spaceship, and Banner inside of said spaceship, controlling spaceship by hitting walls. That's the only way to describe this run, and it is that ridiculous. So you got to go into it with that mindset that, wow, somebody is having a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, it's Hulk as a cartoon.
Yeah. Because I only read the first issue of this when it first came out, and the visual of him being piloted like a Jaeger is ridiculous, but just really fun. I didn't read further in to know how the story goes, but the visuals themselves are really interesting.
I think, for somebody that claims that he has never watched anime, this and his Venom run definitely have like an anime feel to it. Like the plot, if you were to tell me the plot, like, what? That sounds like a ridiculous anime. Yeah, so I mean, I get why some people didn't like it, and I
it's
think
so off the walls and bonkers.
It's a lot different coming from Immortal.
It really is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, coming out of Immortal Hulk into this, it's like, whoa. And I think that kind of works though, because you have to be different. You can't continue the story of Immortal Hulk. Immortal Hulk actually had an ending. And this is like, okay, if that is over, let's take Hulk to another level. And that's all I'll have to say about this particular book.
All right, let us roll on to the next book then. The next book is another omnibus, and it's one that kind of surprised us from the announcements. It is The Death of Wolverine, which could also aptly be called the Wolverine Marvel Now Omnibus. Why do I say that? Because this has pretty much all of Wolverine's main thread of plot from Marvel Now, Wolverine 1 through 13, from 2013 and 2014, 1 through 12. That's all by Paul Cornell. Then Wolverine Annual 1, Death of Wolverine 1 through 4, Death of Wolverine, lots of other things that tied in, but that main series was by Charles Soule. And if we look at the cover here, we have this gorgeous main cover from Alex Ross that depicts some key moments of Wolverine's history and has a Wolverine head growing out of Wolverine's back like a cancerous lump. And then we also have the Quesada DM only cover of Wolverine being haunted by the skeletons of his many victims.
Now, if you're looking at the chronological order of of Wolverine, you are looking at, holy moly, this is after the Mark Miller Omnibus. It is after the Jason Aaron Omnis. So if you're like, oh, Death of Wolverine, this must happen after the Fatal Attraction story. No, you're talking years, like decades in between stories. But it's something that Marvel has done for many years since, we've had these. We in the same year, we had Uncanny X-Men Omnibus Volume 1, and we had New X-Men. Now, people that have read the stuff knew exactly where it fit in, but to an average person that just wants to collect Omnis, I'm like, oh, is this the follow-up book to Uncanny 1? Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. It's years apart. The funny thing is, Paul Cornell had no idea how Wolverine or if Wolverine was going to die, but he didn't even get to write the story. He was writing his own series, doing his own thing, and then Charles Soule wrote the main event. But yeah, it's definitely one I did not see coming. It's been released in, was it 2 Ultimate Collections, I think? There's
a companion Ultimate Collection and a main one, I think.
This is an excellent question. How does Logan wear a hat considering that hair? It helps the hat stay on. Doug.
Yeah, I think the hat gives grip so that way he can do backflips,
Mm-hmm. If you've ever watched Indiana Jones, the behind the scenes, they wanted to staple the hat to Harrison Ford. Wolverine doesn't have to worry about that. Even if you staple the hat to him, he's just going to heal. Oh, look at that. Look at this. Omar better be careful. Peter's going to take his job. Listen to how much effort he put into it. Oh, Peter doesn't even need to breathe when he's talking about these things. It's amazing. Amazing. So this comes after the Wolverine and the X-Men Omni on the shelf. Yes, as a matter of fact, well, this is
some of the beginning of it overlaps that, but if you were to read it entirely after, you would not go astray.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine, but it does take place. Omar, with the recent zero-hour announcement for DC, do you think Marvel will do similar epic line for event? Okay, so yeah, if people haven't heard, DC's Finest, they announced 5 more books dropped in the catalog. And one of them was the DC's Finest Events line, and it was 0 Hour. And that's the book that's just been released in omnibus format. It is going to be really interesting how that... I don't know. I have thoughts about that already, because how many of these are they going to release? They're all set to be released within 12 weeks, and we're looking at 9 books. And if we're starting an events line, woo, and Curtis is joining at the right time. Curtis!
Hey, everybody. How
are you? Do you think Marvel should release a epic events line?
100%. Absolutely.
Would you say that would have the backlash that things like the Prelude to the Mutant Massacre had, with people saying that's going to double dip a lot? Because that's what's going to happen with we're still years away from that. But when you have a DC event line, especially with the way they're going to map this thing, because, 0 Hour is only 5 issues. And those issues are going to double dip with Batman, Detective Comics, and Robin, and all those other issues. Do you think there might be a backlash? Wait, this is a lot of John Byrne. Let's say Acts of Vengeance, right? They do an Acts of Vengeance. People are going to be like, this is just John Byrne's Avengers and West Coast. What is this?
So I guess it depends on if they want to collect the events that are 100% double dip, or if they're just going to go with events like Infinity Gauntlet, where they can put in a few key tie-ins to bump it up to 500 pages or whatever, and everything else is taken care of in the other epic collections or something like that. I think it would probably more relate to the modern era with things like Civil War, because that way you could have one volume of a Civil War Marvel epic events volume and include just the main series plus any of the tie-ins that won't be found in other epic collections like Civil War Frontlines and stuff like that.
Okay.
And I think we kind of overestimate how much overlap would be in Double Dip. Acts of Vengeance is a very specific crossover that really was centered on Avengers. And even then, it would still have to have a lot of Avengers West Coast and other things. In the chat, Cody brought up a great point that we've got complete collections kind of already mapped for that, and they don't double dip Avengers too hard. I just think it would be nice, especially now that Marvel's kind of moving into doing the omnibuses for the event stuff. It would kind of be cool if they would give us a pared back version of the omnibuses that work in epic collections. I've often lamented that, especially when they do, somewhere I've got it down here, when they do this Atlantis Attacks, like it's a book without a line. It's the perfect size to be an epic collection. It effectively is an epic collection. It should look good on my epic collection shelf. And instead, it's just this kind of random one-off book. They'd probably sell better for some of them, some of the older events, if they made them epic collections. Of course, the newer events tend to have their own fans and marketing attached to them.
Would you add a volume number to the back then with, say, like Contest of Champions being number 1 or Secret Wars being volume 1, and then you do it in chronological order? That would be kind of cool to have.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, that's one way to do it for sure. The other is just to make each one a standalone thing with no volume number on the back.
Because who's to say what's an event? They might go back later and decide to finally do Star Blast as an epic collection. So let's not get too hung up on counting.
Yeah.
Do you remember when they did the X-Men milestone books?
Yeah.
Like they were collecting the events, right? And the first one they did was the Dark Phoenix, which wasn't a crossover. But I guess it depends on the definition of event. All right, let's keep going. Curtis, how are you, buddy? Where can people find you?
Oh, just find me over on epicmarvelpodcast.com, but you can also find me in the Epic Collection Facebook group talking about DC Finest these days. It's pretty funny.
Easy, buddy. All right, Peter, what's next?
I'll just say one more thing before we move on, that I think this mapping is pretty significant because it shows Marvel's willingness to cross an entire era and multiple authors and multiple books to get a really big chunk. I think that that's something we've always wanted them to do, and I feel like we hear from a lot of people like, oh, Marvel doesn't do that. Marvel kind of sticks to one thing at a time. Well, not anymore per this book. So let that influence some of your votes on the Tiger Eyes annual Marvel Most Wanted Omnibus secret ballot, if you would like. Okay, let's keep going. So next we've got... which is still running, which you have a whole nother week to vote for. Okay, we have an OHC here, and it is technically one of the ongoing volumes of the Fantastic Four oversized hardcover collection, but it's been given a title here, perhaps to help sell it, since it would be a deeper number in that list. It is Fantastic Four Reckoning War by Dan Slott. It contains Fantastic Four Reckoning War Alpha one-shot, Fantastic Four 2018 40 through 46, and another one-shot, Reckoning War Trial of the Watcher. What's interesting here is this will not complete your oversized hardcover shelf of Fantastic Four, because there were 2 more issues after this. Fantastic Four 47 and 48. They were written by David Pepose and were part of Judgment Day. So this is the end of the Dan Slott run. There are 2 more issues after it.
And if you have the Judgment Day Omnibus, they are collected.
It would have all of Fantastic Four 2018.
Except, well, there was that Peter David miniseries. Wasn't collected in oversized hardcover. I love that miniseries. I can't... who knows?
Maybe Fantastic Four, right?
Maybe if there's an omnibus, that would be cool sometime. Thanks.
Anybody
Phil.
read this run on the panel that have any comments on the Reckoning War long built to by Dan Slott and kind of like
Yeah.
hinted in some other books and finally
I
exploding
guess I'm actually just
here?
more so surprised that they decided to drop the volume 4 in this and just head on straight, just call it the last arc, because they split, if I recall correctly, they split Reckoning War into two thin trade paperbacks, a part 1 and a
They
part
did.
2, and they're now mashing it together into this one oversized hardcover and calling it a day on Slot F4.
Honestly, I think
I
that's
would-
great because this was there was a, if I remember this correctly, it's been a while since I've read this, but the Dan Slott's Fantastic Four had a really nice ending before Reckoning War, and then it just did this. So to have it end on volume 3 is actually a nice stopping point.
I
I
think
think
it's a run that, you know, it's very divisive. Some people liked it, some people didn't care for it. I kind of dug the way it began, and I liked the payoff with you know, tying it into She-Hulk. That run that he did, I thought it was nice. Ups and downs. You know, I don't know if it'll be regarded as one of the great runs of the Fantastic Four, but I guess the years will tell. Have you read any of this, Larry, or is there a stopping point for your Fantastic Four?
Yeah, I haven't read this. This is I stopped most of the newer superhero stuff around 2012 or so,
Mhm.
somewhere around there.
Is there a specific reason? What happened in 2012? What was released?
I don't know. I think that's when I switched over to collected editions, and
Mhm.
so that was kind of a natural way for me to just say, well, you know, I can change gears here.
Got it.
I read this one.
I will
through
say,
the
oh, go ahead, Oprah, please.
Oh no, sorry. I was gonna say I only read this one through the Franklin reveal and the crossover with X-Men, and I read it for a little while longer, enough to see like the storyline with the Skrull and Kree Kid. But I haven't read far enough for what this is collecting.
I will say I am not a noted fan of Slott's Fantastic Four, but this was probably my favorite arc in the whole book. There are points towards the beginning of this that it really just gets great. He kind of builds up like a really big, tragic story, and even though there's some like walk and talk in the middle that it kind of moves, the artists on this are fantastic. Rachel Stott was really incredible in this whole run. So like, I'm not saying get into this whole Fantastic Four run just to read this book, but if you've been wondering about Reckoning War and you want to just pick up the trades or read it on Marvel Unlimited or even just buy this book, it's actually pretty solid.
I actually really agree with Cody. Problem with modern Fantastic Four is that they're all eventually going to be compared to Hickman before being deemed all-time great. You're right. And that's kind of what sucks after coming out of a great run. But we've seen that with Daredevil, right? Like, Daredevil has had a phenomenal run of creators, and it seems like as soon as one of the big creators leaves, you're like, I don't think this is going to be as good as fill in the blank. But I don't know. I guess, like I said, time will tell. I have been loving Ryan North's Fantastic Four. It's probably one of my favorite reads this year. It's been amazing. All right, Larry, this one's up your alley, buddy. Let me remove this.
Here we've got the Captain America Omnibus Volume 3, a new printing with a new cover from Ben Coelho. This is one of the classic Captain America omnibuses that collect the Marvel Masterworks line of mapping. It collects Captain America 149 through 192 and material from Giant Size Captain America #1 and Boom. And Omar, if I'm not mistaken, this being Volume 3 means it comes directly before Captain America by Jack Kirby, aka Volume 4. Do I have my math right there?
Yep, that is correct. And
all right,
Jack Kirby's Captain America has been rebranded as a Volume 4 when it was reprinted this year, with the addition of 6 extra pages. That's the difference between the Captain America by Jack Kirby Omnibus and Captain America Omnibus Volume 4. And a couple of those pages are like the Mighty Marvel Masterworks covers and things like, you know, new things that they've added since. 3 came out, I believe, in 2021, if I'm not mistaken. But they figured, with this being an anniversary of Captain America, they're just going to go ahead and reprint them. Because I think when I announced this, some people were like, oh, this is still, I can still find this at Amazon or in stock trades or cheap graphic novels. But that didn't mean that it was out of print from the distribution level. So what they wanted to do is reprint it, so it's back in stock. And in December, so we still got a little bit to go.
Larry, this is a sweet spot for you. Do you have any fond thoughts on this Captain America run, which, as the chat just pointed out, includes the original Secret Empire?
Yeah, I like this a lot. I think I like Kirby's better, but this leads into. But I did like
Really?
this a lot. Yeah, I
That's
think so.
interesting. Were you reading
I
it at
think
the time?
It's mostly nostalgia, I think, probably more than anything. But
Were you reading these issues at the time, Larry? Not to date yourself here.
no, I think probably around the end of the Kirby's run, that's after this is when I started reading Cap. But then I got some back issues and all that. And I have the first 3 Omnis, and I've read those.
Yeah, I dug this stuff.
Yeah,
it was fun, and it's so interesting when the King comes back and it's like, yeah, I don't.
He
care
just
about
throws
you.
it all out. He just ignores everything. I mean, he
For
came
those
with
of you who love a
Falcon.
classic cover, there's a Sal Buscema cover down here that has the full Captain America and the Falcon trade dress that appeared on the covers of the comics at that time.
You know what's
Yeah, that's
interesting
what-
about that is that recently with reprints and new books, they've been using 2 classic covers for the direct and the standard edition. So I'm surprised they reprinted the Ivan Coelho cover for this one and not go in with 2 different classic covers.
All right. Rolling on, we are not out of the new omnibuses, folks. This is Fantastic Four Omnibus Volume 5, here with a Rich Buckler Frightful Four cover, and then there's a Buckler Thing versus Hulk cover for the DM only. This is part of the classic line of Fantastic Four omnibuses. It collects Fantastic Four 126 through 163, Giant Size Superstars #1, which is effectively a Fantastic Four issue, and Giant Size Fantastic Four 2 through 4, and Avengers 127.
Yeah, getting this.
Yeah, this is some classic stuff. I mean, we're gone past the Stan Lee and Jack Kirby era, but there's still a lot of great creators here.
Yeah.
A lot of these stories I had read for the first time through the Epic collections because I stopped getting the Marvel Masterworks years ago. So it was interesting to go and read stories like this for the first time because I've only had heard about some of these. But
so I think
Go
volume
ahead,
6, if we get it, is going to bridge the gap between this and the John Byrne. Should be just enough there to cover an Omni, right?
yeah, but we don't know how it's going to be mapped. I'm assuming
Yeah.
the John Byrne stuff will have the new scans from the Masterworks, and it'll be a volume number, right? Kind of like Uncanny X-Men and all that. So I don't know if they're just going to rebrand that as 7 and 8, or if they're going to leave out 2 issues.
Right, because that first Byrne book kind of has some picky choosy issues at the beginning.
Oh
when
yeah,
Byrne wasn't
that's right. It's
consistently
got
on
the
the book
early
with like the Nova stuff.
Yeah.
So it's going to
remap it.
clearly a book would collect right through that and just have those couple of Byrne issues, but maybe stop when it gets to like full body of Byrne.
There's a couple of Doug Minch, Bill Sienkiewicz FF issues right before the FF or the John Byrne run that are left out of that. And those were pretty good.
Curtis, this is squarely in the epic zone. Are you a fan of this run?
You know what? Fantastic Four during the 70s is actually not my favorite thing. It has little. I feel like it has little consequence, so therefore it's not fondly remembered in my mind. But yeah, the question I have here. So can you tell me again the contents of this book here?
Sure, this runs from 126 to 163. It stops literally the issue before the beginning of George Perez's run on Fantastic Four.
Yep.
Okay, so this is pretty much. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yep. Sorry. I would agree that the stuff going on here is just kind of fun, but it is fairly inconsequential. There's no like big monumental stuff that happens, but nothing but I love it nonetheless because this stuff was like, it was just back issues, when I started reading books. So these were not on the stands when I started, but they weren't completely unobtainable. I could kind of get a few of them.
Oh yeah, and they were easy to obtain in the 90s when I started buying back issues as well. They were all still a buck a pop, and so I was able to fill in my whole run with all of these. But this is Epic Collection 8 and 9, and it's interesting that usually the Omnis come and then we get kind of the Epic collections, but in this case it was the reverse. The Epics came first, and this one kind of waited for the Epics to come out. And then they release the Omni. So I wonder if they'll do that again with the next Fantastic Four. They'll wait till Epics 10 and 11 are out, and then they'll bring out the Omnibus.
So this one was supposed to be announced for 2023.
Oh yeah.
But there was a delay in a movie and a whole delay that happened, and now is why we're getting it in November of 2024. So you won that round, Curtis. You got us there. Next time, my friend. Next time.
Okay, I wait for it.
All right. We're not done with the omnibuses, folks. This is one of Omar's both most hated and most awaited books. It is X-Men Road to Onslaught Omnibus Volume 1. Omar, we'll need to hear from you on that in a second. This is a Brian Hitch cover with a loose cover DM only. And this collects a pretty big hunk of the path that directly follows Age of Apocalypse when everybody comes back in X-Men Prime on the way to the beginning of what is collected in the Onslaught Omnibus. Omar.
Yes, boss. What can I do for you?
So it's volume 1.
Yeah, do you want me to tell you the origin of that, or do you want me to tell you what's going to be in volume 2? Those are not the covers, though. The covers
interesting.
are I'm going to be making a separate video. So what ends up happening is that if you can scroll down a little bit, Peter.
Sure thing.
Go down to the bottom right there so we can see the entire content. So they added some things that were previously not in here, like the Starjammers. Remember when we asked if they could add Starjammers to the Excalibur Volume 3, and they said, well, they never tell me what they have plans for. So what they were looking at was this, and then we had suggested adding a couple of things to this series, or to the Omnibus of Road to Onslaught, and it just got to be too big. Especially for an X-Men book, as we all know, they're very profitable. People buy them. So that's what ended up happening. They just found too many things that they wanted to add that are not in the complete collections if you have Road to Onslaught complete collections. So that's where we are.
It's actually a good thing. Like, I love that it's more differentiated from the complete collections and probably from whatever Epic collections finally come out, because some of these things wouldn't fit into the X-Men Epic line. So, like, yeah, it's 2 books. Yeah, we're going to pay an X-Men tax. But just thinking about it on the shelf, I'm actually not that upset about it.
I mean, it's definitely one of those gap fillers that we've needed for a long time. We're just going to have to wait a little bit longer for the volume 2. And whatever that will contain. That's hilarious that this is your first time seeing a volume 1 and you went right for me, like, what's going on?
Explain.
Anyone else in the panel with fond memories, recent or actually vintage, from the 90s of this road to Onslaught that caused Omar and I to make our departure from comic book collecting?
Goodbye, X-Men. Goodbye, comics.
I still haven't I haven't caught up on X-Men enough to get to this point yet, but I feel like by the time I do, it's going to be so infamous. Like, I don't even know what to expect, because like every time I talk to people about it, they're like, oh god, and then Onslaught. Like, it's never fun. It's never fun.
What if you love it though? You were like, that was the best story, not comic book, the best story I've ever read.
I feel like that would be the funniest outcome, and I can't wait to come back on a stream with you guys and be like, guys, so guess what? You're never gonna guess.
Hey, I stuck with X-Men through Onslaught. It wasn't until the 12 that I jumped off.
Oh man, I feel you on that, Curtis, because I had to read this and Onslaught on top of the 12 for a book club back in 2021. And to all the people who told me like this was terrible, I think it's like these comics are a little below that. I did not particularly enjoy what I read, but to someone out there, maybe this is your thing. It's just not for me.
Yeah, it's a
It's
pass for me.
weird. It's weird that this was the, I know it's not just me and Peter. I know a lot of my friends that said, all right, that's enough of comics. This is just getting ridiculous. And for me, I was a senior in high school when this was coming out. So I was like, I guess I could use that money for like gas and other things. And it was time to stop reading comics. But I'm glad I came back. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't be here doing the show. But I don't know why this is what to me was the the breaking point. Because I mean, before Onslaught, we had other serious, like ridiculous storylines too. But I think Onslaught was just the epitome of how ridiculous X-Men got at the time. At the time, then they fought a bunch of crows and She Lies with Angels and the Draco. And,
Oh boy, yeah.
All right.
What was
folks.
DC doing at a point at this time? During 1996, DC, or what did you say? Nightfall. No, Nightfall was 1993. 1992, 1993. Death of Superman was 92, I think. Nightfall was 93. They were
I think
trying to get back the characters.
I think Grant Morrison was writing JLA when this kicked
Yes,
off.
yes. That's right. When I left comics, Grant Morrison was writing JLA, and that wasn't enough for me, to stay. Yeah, I'm not saying 1996 was the worst year for comics. It was just not for me. And soon after that, there was a whole implosion that happened. But Larry, did you survive the 90s? Like, did you say
I skipped that whole deal.
Wait,
decade.
Did you like stop reading comics, or you skipped the 90s in general?
I mean, I skipped comics. I pretty much, the whole. I didn't come back till close to 2000, toward the end of all of that. Which I feel like that's when they started getting a lot better, around 98, 99, 2000. That's when.
Well, 98, 99 was kind of the beginning of the new era for Marvel and DC at that time.
Marvel
when they
Knights,
were like,
I think was really good.
Marvel Knights and Vertigo. They were like, let's put all the focus on Karen and Vertigo, and oh my gosh, she freaking brought it. There was so much good. Yeah, everybody loops the night, or I'm sorry, not everybody. Lots of people, especially if they're on YouTube, loop the 90s together as it was like something horrible. Like the entire decade was bad. There's a lot of good that came out of the 90s too.
Well, it's like when people say the 60s in reference to music, they're not really literally talking about 60 through 69. They're more like talking about 64 through 75, right?
Yeah.
And they that's the 60s for.
So, Oddfell, what did you find out about 1996 from DC Comics? Share your homework with the rest of it.
Yeah, so I looked it up, and it looks like the events that were really big were the final night, and then it's the same time where they were doing DC versus Marvel and the Amalgam Universe type stuff. Doesn't look like there's a whole lot of other like big events that came out that year. It just a quick cursory glance, but looks like the final night would have been the big event for that year.
But JLA by Morrison is good, right? Because Omar made me buy it.
Omar made me buy it.
I like JLA by Grant Morrison a lot. I don't know if you will, but I liked it.
It's a good book. I think around the same time Peter David was writing Supergirl, or just started to write it, and I also think that's when Tim Sale started drawing Long Halloween on Batman.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong on that.
No, it sucked. Thank you for that, Warren.
We can always rely on Warren. But what's funny is that Warren halfway agrees with me on everything, which just, it's like a spectrum. It's like Omar, Crisis,
he's like bizarro
Warren.
Omar.
Yeah.
He like, I don't know what happened. I think planets aligned when he agreed with me on something. It was really weird.
Yeah, no, it's always out of left field whenever he agrees on something, and I'm like, whoa, wait, hold on.
So they changed the Decimation cover too. If you notice that. That was something I was gonna unveil it on a video, but I figured let's go ahead and talk about it too. So they changed the Decimation DM. No, the DM cover has the logo, and I believe they're going to change the standard edition because they know that it's also the House of M Companion Standard Edition. So that I'll be doing a video on that. I think they have the covers today. I'll have to check with them. And this is the Decimation, which is the aftermath of House of M. And Peter, let's look at the content and talk a little bit about this.
Sure. So this has got a pretty broad set of content, the final issue of House of M, and then a number of Decimation miniseries, which if you had them all lined up and made a little mini omnibus out of trade paperbacks on your shelf, including Utopia X #5, Decimation House of M the day after, X-Men 1991, 177 through 179, New X-Men 20 through 24, that's Academy X, not Grant Morrison, X Factor 1 through 4, Generation M 1 through 5, Son of M 1 through 6, X-Men 198 1 through 5, Sentinel Squad 1 through 5, New Avengers 16 through 20, X-Men Unlimited 2004-13, and X-Men the 198 Files, which enumerated the mutants which survived Wanda's fateful No More Mutants declaration.
So I do have the new cover for that. I'm just waiting for approval. Okay. So let's look at the content again, Peter. So this is doing some double dipping if you're getting the House of M companion, because the House of M companion is also really interesting because it works both as a prequel, a book to read during the event, and then a follow-up to the event. And if you look here, the contents of this also have the New Avengers 16 through 20, which is the Collector? Is that what it was called? It's Mike Deodato Jr. It's the one with Alpha Flight at the very beginning. But it's like where all the the mutant energy has to go to something, right? If we're gonna wipe them out. So it is doing some double dipping with that if you're gonna get the House of M companion. I announced it forever, but I don't think we've seen solicited. No word on that yet, but it will come. It will come. Also, a prelude to Silent War, which was never had a followed up on. So this also Decimation is not like a crossover, right? It's not. It's like a banner they used, like Marvel Now or the Dark Reign era. There wasn't like a part 1, part 2 of Decimation. It was the aftermath of House of M when, as Peter explained, when Wanda said no more mutants. And this is showing you the aftermath with some miniseries that have never been collected in omnibus format. And I'll be honest with you, I have no idea where some of these would even go. Like Generation M 1 through 5. I wouldn't like. That's a Paul Jenkins frontline book. Sentinel Squad. Maybe if they make a Sentinel omnibus, I don't know. I find like Utopia. Maybe. Well, no, they are putting that in the companion, and that's the David Hines series.
Right, because that mostly occurs during House of M. They just have 5 here because it sets up something I think that happens in Son of M or Generation M, one of the follow-ups.
Decimation is what Bendis did to Scarlet.
Coming in hot.
Decimation is the aftermath of House of M. Correct, but in it's not an event, right? It's just a banner. Hey, here's how all the depowered mutants are hanging out. Look at the Blob. He's skinny now because he used to be fat, and fat was his mutant power. It's things like that. And each of the teams were doing their own thing. The only Decimation banner I don't see collected in here is Uncanny X-Men. Because
which was End of Grays, a pretty slam bang action packed little arc there by Chris Claremont focusing on Rachel Summers. Anybody else on the panel have strong opinions, yay or nay, on Decimation?
I've read most of this, I think, and I remember liking it at the time, but it's uneven, because there's a lot of creators there. But
this is when I jumped off of X-Men the second time.
I don't have fond memories of this era. That's for sure. And
all right,
I like the 198, and some of that, but
yeah, that had its ups and downs. I will say Son of M was really interesting, but that's also collected in the prelude to War of the Kings. The one shot the day after, that's a Claremont story. So I was excited about that, and I want to say that's Randy Green drew that one too, and so it's got some sweet artwork.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Spoilers about Blob. I'm sorry. There's only 198 mutants left. Blob didn't make the cut. Ups and downs, man. The roller coaster that is X-Men. What's that, Oddphil?
I was gonna say it's not a bad collection. It just kind of like it doesn't contribute a whole lot to the event that it's tied to.
Well, all the teams, all the writers were doing their own thing, right? Like they were in the middle of the story. Peter Milligan was in the middle of writing something, or So it wasn't like it led to something else. It was just the aftermath.
Yeah, it's a good collection if you're trying to have a solid run, though. Collects a lot.
This was follow up by Deadly Genesis, a masterpiece of storytelling.
At least it has
I
great
love
art.
Deadly Genesis. Deadly Genesis, Truthers Unite.
Really, Peter? That's awesome.
Hey,
There's
only
a
thing good about
certain,
Deadly
and
Genesis was that
let me
artwork,
say this.
right?
Oh, what's that, Larry?
The only thing good about Deadly Genesis was that artwork.
I didn't even like Trevor Hairsign. I like the covers by Mark Silvestri.
Well, yeah. I guess I'm probably thinking more of the covers than anything, but I did like Trevor Harrison.
Good cover. I agree with that.
Look, I'll just say this. There's a certain magical power in coming back to read things way after the fact, and you haven't seen the internet reaction to them because you just get the pure, unbridled joy of reading comics without the internet's opinion. So as much as you're here to listen to all of our opinions, sometimes I think it's fun to just pick up the book and read it without knowing how much something was liked or hated. And for me, I read Deadly Genesis. I'm like, whoa, we're going to solve some Summers Brothers stuff. This is awesome. Like, I had no filter that people didn't like it. I just had my 90s excitement of Summers Brothers nonsense. But let's move on to some other 90s nonsense if we can. This is What If Into the Multiverse Omnibus Volume 2 with a totally gorgeous Brian Hitch cover with Wolverine and Alpha Flight defeating the X-Men. There's also a DM cover from Jim Valentino of Galactus fighting the Avengers rather than the Fantastic Four. This collects more of What If 1989, issues 40 through 75. If you're wondering, will there be another omnibus? Quite possibly yes, because there is exactly an omnibus amount of material to collect after this in that 1989 series. Lots of really good ones in here. Surfer wielding the Infinity Gauntlet, Frank Castle as Captain America, Logan getting married, Storm remaining a thief, Magneto taking over the United States, and many other stories. Omar.
I agree with Transcendent Travis. They did not use the cover to issue number 50, which is the one that he uses as his avatar. And they actually have the book in here. It's the What If Hulk Had Killed Wolverine. That's such a good story with an awesome cover. Oh my gosh. Yes, I am so in for this one. This is right before they changed the series up to, they went through that transition period where they were like, okay, wait, the X-Men are selling well. Let's focus on character-driven stories. So we'll just call it What If starring Jubilee. What If starring Sabretooth instead of having like, you know, the title of the book, like What If Sabretooth ate all the X-Men or whatever. Yeah, but I'm excited for this. That standard cover, somebody said it looks like Canadian propaganda, Curtis. I'm in for that, man. That cover is
That's
awesome.
how you view Canadians. I love it. I love that there's a huge Canadian flag.
I see a lot of that in covers, right?
The thing is that there are, I don't think there are any Canadian flags that big actually in Canada. We don't display them on our houses like you do in America.
Hey, easy now.
Yeah, you very rarely see the New Zealand flag just on non-government property, especially because there was a vote that people wanted to have the New Zealand flag changed to a kiwi bird shooting laser beams out of its eyes. So it's not like there's a lot of national pride about our flag here.
That would be a cool flag.
That would be so
That would be a
awesome.
cool flag.
It was like one of those Bodie McBoatface things when the vote started kind of rolling out. They're like, maybe we're not going to take the vote very seriously. Okay.
Maybe we made a
continue.
mistake here somewhere.
Maybe mistakes were made. Oh my goodness, Omar, there's so many omnibuses in the solicit. This is the Star Wars High Republic Phase 2 Quest of the Jedi omnibus with a Phil Noto cover on the main cover here and a Layman cover on the DM only cover. If you are confused about what this Phase 1, Phase 2 is, basically every year Marvel has launched a new volume of the High Republic, so it's nice, easy, small numbers to keep track of. This is the 2022 volume entirely by Kevin Scott, and then there is a mini-series Star Wars The High Republic The Blade 1 through 4. Anybody in the chat reading High Republic? I'm still in Phase 1, so I cannot comment on this book.
I've read this in trade, and I've read Phase 1 in trade, and I don't know how anybody else feels. I know there were some strong thoughts about this one. I've been on a Star Wars podcast before, and they were telling me about, whenever there's things like this during the Marvel era or the Disney era of Star Wars, immediately it gets a lot of hate. But I like stories like this where it's not focusing on the Skywalker family. This takes place long before Episode 1. I enjoyed it. It's very reminiscent of what the Old Republic did in the Dark Horse era. Although I enjoy that more. But the High Republic was their #1 best-selling Star Wars omnibus, so it doesn't surprise me that immediately they solicited this one. So this is Phase 2, and there's one more phase to end it, and it ties in with the books, it ties in with the manga, and there's another property, the young adult. I think there's like a young or a kid's book, maybe.
Yeah, there was an adventures series that was really tightly coordinated in continuity to the Marvel books, to the effect that you really could just read them back and forth as one.
I believe those were published by IDW.
Tyler is saying the easiest way to tell what year the High Republic is, the color of the logos change across the entire line for Phase 1, 2, and 3. It's almost like Tyler has inside information. Or just really good with colors. Awesome. KOTOR is best there. Knights of the Old Republic, oh my gosh, it was so good. I hadn't read it until I read the omnibus, and it was like some of the best Star Wars comics ever.
All right, now we're into the Marvel Masterworks. Here is the Marvel Masterworks for Werewolf by Night, Volume 3, entirely written by Doug Munch. It is collecting Werewolf by Night 22 to 30 and Giant Size Werewolf 2 to 5. Larry, would you like to take us away on this one?
Take us away, Larry.
This is great stuff. I mean, I have the omnibus of this, and at one time I had all the singles, which took me a while to get all those. But yeah, this was a great run. It's full of all kinds of great art. Mike Plug. I don't know the specific issues here, but the run overall has a lot of Mike Plug. Don Perlin comes in for a while, and just great stuff. First appearance of Moon Knight, of course.
Mm-hmm.
All that happened in here. This Dracula crossover. I mean, Iron Man shows up toward the end. Yeah, it's great stuff.
And Larry, for people who've never read Werewolf by Night and don't know the concept, like what is he doing? What is it about? Is he a hero that's a werewolf? Like, what is the general concept of Werewolf by Night in this era?
He's a guy that's cursed. His name is Jack Russell, which is really funny if you think about it.
The irony behind that is that he didn't even know that there was a dog named Jack Russell. Like, there's a type of dog that is called. It's pure happenstance.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, he's cursed with it, and of course he ends up doing heroic stuff. It's almost like the Hulk premise, where the Hulk is not really a hero, but he does heroic stuff.
Yeah, and I think I've read some of it, and that's part of what's interesting about it is that he doesn't really want to be Werewolf by Night, and sometimes the things that he's doing as Werewolf by Night are at odds with what he wants to be doing, but he's also not truly he's not truly a monster. It doesn't turn into like a slasher comic at night. He still has some altruistic urges, I would say.
Yeah. And there's a lot of magic in it. There's a lot of like sorcery and stuff like that happens in it. The Frankenstein's monster crosses over a couple of times. It's good stuff.
Oatville, what were you saying there?
I just always thought that was a purposeful pun for his name. I'm like, wait, what?
No.
I've read it both ways. I read that Doug Minch did it on purpose, and then I've heard the other story that it was accidental. So I don't know.
It was
I
in
like
the
the idea that he
Marvel.
stumbled on it.
It was in the Marvel Masterworks. I think the very first one, the Werewolf by Night Volume 1. The introduction was talking about like the name Jack Russell, where he came from, and I think Larry's right. Like it was told both ways, that it was on purpose, and then that it was pure coincidence that he didn't know that there was a Jack Russell dog.
Yeah.
All right, Peter, take us on to the next book.
All right, let's roll onward to another Marvel Masterwork. And this is technically a remasterwork. It is Marvel Masterworks, the Uncanny X-Men Volume 2 Remasterworks Edition. This one collects X-Men 101, right from the Phoenix bursting out of Jamaica Bay in New York to 110. And Remasterworks, what does it mean, Omar?
It means that they are giving us the best possible reconstruction of the artwork and color. So they're retouching everything up. And they're reprinting these in the release date like that they had for the original ones. They've added more pages. So you'll see things in here like Mighty Marvel Masterworks covers usually. As a matter of fact, can you look at the page count of this one, Peter? And if somebody has the original one, maybe compare
This is 240 pages, and I have the original in my hot little hands right here, and it
also
only
$75.
has 180 pages in the original. This has got 60 more pages. My printing of the original is from second printing 2008.
Okay, so 2008. I think that was the last printing of that before this, because they don't really
60 more pages.
Yeah, they don't really.
So do the Omnis have the remastered stuff, or does it depend on which?
No.
None of them do?
None of them do, because they just started this last year. I think we started getting them. Yeah, so it'll be a while. And like I mean, honestly, for people that you got to be really into comic book art and noticing panels and the subtle changes and differences. I mean, it could be something as like somebody's the color of their jacket or the pupil in their eyes. It's just really cool to see all the touch up and all the restoration that happens in these books. I think somebody like Curtis would appreciate it, honestly, because I know
I feel like it's going to be a lot of line work. Like looking at this, and Curtis, you are literally a professional about this. Some of this line work is not the most kind of delicate. It's a little fudgy at points, and I have to think that some really fine line work, like tiny lines in Lysandra's face, are probably going to look a lot better in a Remasterworks. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. Back when they were doing these in the 80s, most of the time they scanned from the comic books. And so, the comic book ink soaking into the pulpy newspaper isn't nearly as fine a line as the original actual ink line on original art. And back then, Marvel's their archives were a mess, and they didn't know where things were, and a lot of times they didn't have the original artwork. And so now, in this day and age, they have done drastic work cleaning up their archives and know where everything is, and they have access to all of these collectors who have collected the artwork, and so a lot of this stuff is going to look a lot better.
Yeah, subtle differences, and then some pages are just beautifully restored.
I know when I'm scanning pages of my Omnis for my videos and everything, I run them all through Photoshop, and I tweak the quite a bit. I mean, I make it look better than it is sometimes.
Look at Larry.
Some of it's kind of floated, but
let me make sure I get this super chat right here. Larry's daughter, Kristen, told him not to watch Near Mint Condition because of the bad influence. Now he appears on the show. Tisk tisk. Naughty boy. Kristen's crossing her arms right now. Elon, everybody's got a buying price, including Larry.
yeah.
Yeah, as somebody who owns all of these, I'm sorely tempted, not only because of the extra pages, but I really do kind of care about restored line work. I wouldn't rebuy my entire Masterworks collection, but on Uncanny X-Men, would I rebuy to the end of Burn for better line work? maybe. I did start buying the remasterworks of the original X-Men Silver Age masterworks because I missed all of those when I was collecting. They were already way out of print as masterworks, and I just settled for the omnibus. So I don't know. Is Marvel really going to wring another like 10 times $75 out of me? Quite possibly.
I think your slip up there was kind of a Freudian thing. You said reburn. So you are a
I
burn.
did say reburn.
Now you're reburned. Yeah.
They're going to reburn me again and again on the X-Men. Hey, folks, let's take a trip to the modern day with Jonathan Hickman and Marco Cicchetto's totally incredible Ultimate Spider-Man.
Oh, man, I love this.
Volume 1, Married with Children. I hope we are all reading this book because, oh my goodness, I just read Volume 3 or Issue 3 last night, and it is on fire.
It is a super wonderful retelling and twisting of what we expect out of a typical Spider-Man story, and Hickman just taking a spin on everything that we thought we knew about the character and some of his core supporting cast members, and just putting a whole brand new twist on it. I don't think I have enough words to say how much I absolutely adore the story. It feels like the Spider-Man run I've been waiting to read and just love and enjoy, because this is the first time I'm actually sitting down and collecting all of Spider-Man for an entire run, because I've done it inconsistently with some other creators, but not to the level of this. I'm saddened because issues 4 and 5 will not have that Kaketo art. It's going to be drawn by David Messina, but I absolutely love the first 3 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man. It's a treat. I mean, it was enough for me to make a whole brand new YouTube series on it. So absolute must buy for anyone who's trade waiting the series. It is phenomenal.
I want to take this question. As someone who absolutely hated the original Ultimate Marvel, would you recommend the new Ultimate Marvel to me? And somebody else asked if I thought the Ultimate Marvel was destroyed. I am somebody, much like Joshua, I did not care for the original Ultimate Marvel series. It was a case of been there, done that for me, but I also realized that it means a lot to so many of my viewers and people out there. So I get it. I get the love. I absolutely love this series. My wife, I joke that Melanie is going back to single issues. I'm like, this is the home of collected editions. What are you doing? We have a brand to keep up. But I'm okay when she comes home from the comic book store with Ultimate Spider-Man, because we both read it together. Like, we love it that much. We're reading it in bed together, and it's very wholesome. It's the kind of Spider-Man story I wish the 616 would do. But yeah, even if you didn't like the original, this is a new universe. The original, somebody was saying they thought it was destroyed. Yes, go read that Ultimate. What is it? Ultimate Invasion.
Ultimate Invasion and the Ultimate Universe one shot.
That explains how and what this new universe is. This new Ultimate Universe. Omar's right. Oh, thank you for Ryan. Can somebody? Thank you for James. Can you clip that? Omar's right. Ultimate Spider-Man. It's overrated. It's basically just the modern version of the original Fast Forward. It's not even Fast Forward. He didn't get his powers or his costume or anything for a while. My only singles I'm buying is Ultimate Spidey and whenever Hickman's Doom mini comes out. Why do we need another alternate Parker? Well, I think I like the idea of an older Peter Parker with kids because it's the way that I would have liked to have seen Peter Parker progress. And as you know by now, it's never going to happen in the 616 universe. They've tried, and we're never going to see Peter settle down. I mean, unless they change the whole, regime of who's in charge. Yeah, but it's the same thing with like Batman at DC Comics. Superman, yeah, for now. But we'll see what happens when the next reboot.
I would say, to me, this run has had the same energy as Spider-Man Renew Your Vows. So if you really liked that, you're going to really like this.
I haven't read this, but it's disappointing that 3 issues in and they're already changing artists. That's a bummer.
Uh-oh, Larry. Back in my day, Jack Kirby drew the whole damn Marvel universe.
Well, no, I think Larry's got a great point. Cicchetto is a huge draw, and he was able to do arcs at a time on Daredevil. We definitely had him for 6 issues at a time, so little bit of a bummer that we're not getting a solid 6-issue arc. And I will say his art is so leveled up here, even from his art on Daredevil. The line work is so fine. The detail is so great that it's like, I don't know if there's anybody else at Marvel who can stand up to him. Like, you could get Pepe Larraz, who's a brilliant master of the current comic book form, and I don't know if it would stand up to the level of artwork that's on every single page from Cheto on this series. So I'll also say this, Odell, I totally agree with you. It's not just old Peter Parker. It has so many little remixy elements from a lot of different versions of Peter Parker. It has nods to the original Ultimate Universe. It has nods to the old Peter Parker in Spider-Verse. It has nods to Renew Your Vows. And it's something entirely new. And I think that the difference is the original Ultimate Universe was this very kind of like grounded, gritty version of Marvel, because that's not what Marvel was in the year 2000. But to just go back and do grounded and gritty in 2024, that's what all comics have been for like over a decade. So this is Hickman trying to like imagine yet another totally different reason to have another universe. And I don't like Ultimate Marvel, and I don't even like Hickman that much. I loved Ultimate Invasion. I loved that one shot, which I think will wind up being collected with Ultimate Avengers, because it's basically a Ultimate Avengers pilot. And I love this book. So I'm not saying you all should definitely read it, but I'm saying take a chance, even if you're not a big fan of some of the things that came before, because I took a chance and I am very enamored.
You all should definitely read it. 100%.
Dom, who's going to be?
All right, you heard it. Dom is offering
David,
refunds if you don't like it.
I haven't heard one.
Dom-a-backs.
David Messina is going to draw issues 4 through 5. A lot of the people that I talked to have theorized that it's Kaketo like overworking on the brand new designs and everything else, which is why he's not in issues 4 through 5. I also believe that issue 3 and issue 6 had completely different. They switched covers like midway. So he's been doing a lot of rework on the series, but David Messina is going to take over issues 4 and 5, but Kaketo will be back for the finale.
This is not an unusual thing to do, though, is to get a high-profile person to do the first few issues. Because issue 1 is going to be a top seller no matter what, but issue 2 and 3 always have huge drop-offs in numbers because it's not an issue 1. And so they will get a person to do the first 3 issues or something, and their page rate's probably a lot higher. So, and then they'll settle into someone whose budget they can afford a little bit more. And by that point, theoretically, you are invested in the story, so you'll keep going.
Wait.
Yeah,
What
it's common, but it's still stuck.
42 cover variant today? A cover variant to Berserk?
Probably Berserk. Oh God, what's the actor's name?
Keanu.
Yeah, the
Keanu
Keanu Berserk.
Well, I think he's talking about the manga, right? Because you're saying Berserk 42. That's the Tankobon that we're waiting on, because Miura passed away, and we got a 41. I'll have to look that up after the stream. I'm curious what that is. At first, I thought it was Berserker 2, Oddfell.
Yeah, he did.
But now let's travel back.
Is it the manga though?
616.
'Cause, yeah, I don't know. I assumed it would be comics, but yeah, maybe it is the manga.
That's interesting and weird, but I'm kind of here for it. It's the Italian version. Omar sent you the manga. You sent me the manga. It's not out yet, right? Or
Kaketo says he unveiled the Berserk 42 variant straight for Panini Comics, and working on the cover was a pleasure per his Instagram.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh.
All right, Peter, what is this?
Gang
All right,
war
now we're back.
fallout.
Larry, did you? Wow, your daughter just threw you under the bus, Larry. Did you
Well,
skip work for
yes
this,
and
Larry?
no. Yes and
Okay.
no. I took off early, but we were going to leave early anyway. I just left a little earlier. So,
Larry, you ain't got to explain yourself. You're a grown man, Larry. You raised that little girl. You're like, mind your own business, Kristen. But I'm happy to have you here, Larry. I don't suggest keeping work.
well, she is often right. So,
Well, you raised her then. Yes. Peter, what is this, buddy?
This is The Amazing Spider-Man, Volume 10 by Zeb Wells. It is entitled Breathe, and it picks up right after Gang War. It collects Amazing Spider-Man 45 through 49 and material from this year's free Comic Book Day 2024 Spider-Man and Ultimate Universe, as well as Web of Spider-Man #1, which is a one-shot that is going to tease some of the upcoming plots of the Spider books for this year. We've only had 2 issues so far out in this, 45 and then 46, I believe, came out yesterday. But they've teased on the letter pages that this is Wells moving into the 3rd phase of his Amazing Spider-Man, whatever that will hold in store. And this will also cross over with Blood Hunt. Anybody on the panel reading Zeb Wells' Amazing Spider-Man?
The Carmen Carnero issues, the last 2 issues of this run, have absolutely looked stunning and phenomenal. Like, you want to talk about another artist who is like on all levels. Like, I can't wait for Exceptional X-Men, but man, like this, the drawn issues, the 2 of that come out so far, absolutely look stunning.
100 agree.
And I believe, yeah, it seems like it only will collect the Zeb Wells material that he wrote in the Web of Spider-Man one-shot, which was multiple stories all in that one shot, and then when Free Comic Book Day comes out, it'll collect the Zeb Wells story in there as well.
Here's what I'll say as somebody currently reading this. I just don't know what is the plan, right? Like, as much as I didn't like Nick Spencer's Amazing Spider-Man that much, I did have a sense of where Nick Spencer was driving the bus at pretty much all times. Coming out of Gang War here, I read that first Carmen Carnero issue, totally gorgeous artwork. And then it got to the reveal at the end of the issue, and I was like, is this the plan? Am I being asked to like stick around another 25 issues for this? And I'm somebody who actually, I'm not one of these Wells haters. I really liked the first year of this title while everybody was really hating on it, because I like when people do new things with Spidey. But it just, I don't know. I'm really hoping he's got something remarkable to close it out with, because I think after that big foreboding mystery in the first year or 2 that put a lot of people off from it, it feels like it's kind of playing it a little bit safe now. And like, if we're going to have a Spider-Man run, at least like do some stuff, shake some stuff up. So I'm still reading, and I'm still rooting for it, but I'm really hoping that it's going to be a little bit more than was teased in issue 45.
I am on the previous volume. 9 was the last one I read, so I trade wait for these. Ups and downs.
Folks. Speaking of Spider-Man, here's Miles Morales' Spider-Man Gang War. It's Cody Ziegler's Volume 3. It collects all of Miles' participation in Gang War in issues 13 through 16, as well as this month or last month's giant-size Spider-Man #1, which absolutely fits right into the run of this and has some pretty key plot points that fit into this as well. Anybody reading Cody Ziegler's Miles Morales?
I'm actually just more so surprised that like Miles Morales has had a fix on so many events in the last year or so now that it's been on, that it feels like he's barely had time to breathe on its own, and instead it's like, oh, we got Miles doing this in this event. Guess what? He'll be in Blood Hunt a couple months down the line. And it's nonstop. It feels for the guy. It really does.
Yeah, Dom, I literally wrote almost that exact sentence in my recap last week on my new releases post on Crushing Crisis. It's like, this book was so charming in the first 6 issues. I think we were taking Miles somewhere really interesting. And then the events of Marvel just have their foot on his neck for the past year. And even when there was a break between events, it was just 2 issues of him teaming up with Blade. So it hasn't really felt like he has like his own space. And I think Ziegler's actually brilliant at Miles when he gives it its own space. So I'm really hoping that before we roll into Blood Hunt, that we'll get a little bit more about Miles kind of dealing with his anxiety and the fact that he's like feels like his family is always being attacked. He's training and interning with Misty Knight, which is a really fun relationship, and I think it uses Misty Knight really well. He's got this new kind of tech villain who really, really hates him and thinks that he has gotten so many opportunities and has so much privilege that she doesn't have, which is an interesting spot to put Miles in contrast to a villain. So I think Ziegler's got a lot of really interesting plot balls in the air. We just got to take a break from events long enough to watch him juggle.
I like the first one. I like the way that he writes Miles as a kid and the way that he handles situations. It's a nice reminder that he's still a teenager. You know, he's a lot different than a lot of these other superheroes, because while I liked Saladin Ahmed, I thought there was that a little bit of that human element that was missing from his run when it came to Miles. And that's mainly because it was due to all the big arcs that were happening throughout his run. But I think Ziegler really knows how to write a kid, a teenager, that is going not just, through regular teenage life, because, I mean, let's face it sucked for everybody, but also happens to have all these powers and has to deal with that and all this responsibility stuff. But you all know that speech.
Well, I think it's interesting, and I'd love Dom to kind of close out this discussion after I make this comment. We go to the next one. Is I felt like Ahmed's writing of Miles focused on like the culture of teenagers. It was very much about like he wanted to get cool clothes and he was dating, but it didn't really feel like authentically voiced to me as a teenager. Whereas Ziegler maybe is paying less attention to the trappings of like Miles's everyday life as a teenager, but then the voice feels much more authentic to me of like what a teenager in this situation would be going through.
No, I think I agree with Peter for the most part there. It did feel like, because I do appreciate that with the cultural aspect of Miles and the Ahmed run, that it felt more authentic at times, like more than Bendis at points, but it didn't feel like, he's writing a teenager. It felt for me like, actually being a teenager during that time, I felt a bit disconnected with some of the ways that Ahmed was presenting him, but overall it's felt a lot more like, hey, like this is a Miles book that I can enjoy because this is exactly like, oh, this is how he would react in this situation. So I'm really happy with the switch and the change. Again, I just really wish that Marvel would give him and his character breathing time before the next event.
All right. Speaking of events, we have another gang war book here. It's The Deadly Hands of Kung Fu Gang War, which stars, of course, Shang-Chi. This was written by Greg Pak, and it all occurs during Gang War. It's a 3-issue miniseries that also collects some other Shang-Chi errata to fill it out. This directly follows the pretty lengthy run by Yang and is basically the next appearance of Shang-Chi after that.
So this is not part of the big collection, right? Which is the reason that this is a Greg Pak's book. So it's not written by Jean Louis Yang, who has been, oh my gosh, I think he wrote a total of 3 series, and one of them was an ongoing until it ended with issue number 12.
Yeah, he wrote like something like 24 total issues. It's quite an amount of stuff. So this one, I have read this pretty recently. I will say, I don't know if it's very satisfying if you haven't read the Yang stuff. It is so reliant on how far Yang pushed Shang-Chi's status quo that even though the first issue of 3 here basically is a full-on recap issue to catch you up, it still just does not really like ring out on its own unless you've read all of that material. So I'm usually a big Greg Pak super fan. You'll hear me talk about how much I love him again later in the show. I just think this is one of those rare times that I don't know if picking this up from here is going to be as delightful as going back a series or two.
I'm surprised that they didn't give us Amazing Spider-Man Volume 16 Epic Collection to tie in with all of these releases.
Oh, all this Gang War stuff. All right. Speaking of some very unusual comics, I need to know if anybody has read this very strange Thanos series, Return of the Mad Titan by Christopher Cantwell. It is so weird. So weird.
Okay, explain. What do you mean weird? Without spoilers, what do you mean weird?
First of all, you could have easily called it an Illuminati series, which is interesting, but it's the current Illuminati, so it has some different members in it, some of whom I'm a big fan of. But it's also, what if Thanos and the Illuminati were kooky? What if there were jokes, kooky jokes, while Thanos was destroying the Earth and falling in love with death all over again? So it's like got death, it's got Thanos, it's got the Illuminati, and then it's got this very weird, funny vibe. And the artwork is kind of this kind of angular, sort of comedic artwork. It's just a very interesting melange of influences and tactics. And I just don't know what to feel.
Yeah, I was drawn into this series because Lionel was drawing the covers, and I love his artwork. It just felt very weird, like shifting from his action-packed usual covers over to what you have presented in the book. I also think that it should have just been called Illuminati with a Thanos subtitle to it, because it 100% felt more like a brand new Illuminati title than it had any right to be a Thanos book.
Maybe that was the original idea, and because Thanos is such a big name character.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Hey, Peter.
Omar, you did so much. You passed along that so that wouldn't happen to you.
Oh
broke
my
it.
goodness. Okay. Well, let's see. Let's see what's going on with Peter first, and then I'll relaunch it with something here.
No, that's interesting. That has me more interested though, knowing it's an Illuminati book, because I was like another Thanos title. What are they really going to do with him? But that is more compelling to know that the Illuminati's in it.
Okay.
I can attempt to share my screen, Omar, if you ever need it.
Let me see if I can do this from here with one screen. We're with the Thanos while we wait on Peter, who's gone green now. Okay.
I'm loving the comments.
Yeah.
Hey,
Welcome
Peter.
back to the land of the living.
Someone very intelligent on this panel plugged in so many things to their computer that they forgot to plug in the power to their computer. So,
Oh, okay. We thought it was your internet. And we were
no,
like,
internet seems to be holding strong. New Zealand down. The one wire that brings us the internet under the sea has been tripped over by a crab, and the whole country's internet has gone down. Let's move on to the first collection, or actually the second collection. Oh my, of Daredevil by Saladin Ahmed, which is called Hell to Pay, and collects the second arc in this title of issues 6 through 10, front with art from Aaron Kuder and also Juan Cabal and some other artists as well. Who is reading this new Daredevil run?
Of course, because I love Daredevil.
Go ahead, Dom. What did you think about it?
Oh man, it's weird because you pretty much just have like a guest star in every single issue. Sometimes you'll have She-Hulk appearing, sometimes you have other characters appearing, and most of the run was shrouded in, right? Looks like you have the first couple of issues. We didn't know much about it because we didn't want to spoil the ending of Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil. And you had these very vague John Romita Jr. covers, which might have Daredevil like as a pinup, or Daredevil as a pinup with another character. It's weird because I still don't know how to feel about this run a couple of issues in. I don't know if I'm completely sold on it, but I'm not pushed away from it either. It just feels so tame to what Chip had running for the 40 or so issues that he was on Daredevil. It feels so much safer than the previous era of Daredevil comics.
Okay. Peter, are you caught up with this?
I am caught up with this. I think Dom summarized it really well, but to which I would add, often when Daredevil does any kind of religious arc, it feels like it's kind of surface level about a couple of Bible verses that author has chosen to focus on, and then also Matt's very personal faith. But I feel like this Ahmed run is taking the religious angle a little bit deeper and like going into some actual theology and some actual biblical fantasy to go along with that without too much spoiling what the adversary is in this arc. And I'm really liking it. I love fantastical Bible stuff. That's one of my sweet spots. And so I'm really digging it. And it doesn't feel like it's not like we've pitted Daredevil against this supernatural foe. It just is Daredevil battling his own belief, but in a tangible form. And to me, that is the kind of stuff that I just love.
So I'm excited to read it. It was the first issue was okay, and I was worried, but the rest of the volume was solid.
All right. Oddfell, Curtis, Larry, anything on you here, or should we keep on rolling?
I have not picked this one up.
I haven't read this.
Rolling on.
It'll be a while before that modern epic collection, Curtis.
Yeah. So
I'm
here's
good to wait.
one that I have nothing to say about because it's in an alternate universe. So I'm hoping somebody else is reading it.
Oh man,
It
I
is
love.
Avengers
You know what?
Twilight.
Two
This has been
bombast.
surprisingly good. I just finished reading it today.
Take us away, Oddfell.
So this one.
What is this book?
It's giving very strong Kingdom Come energy, if that was kind of your vibe, in the sense that what we're looking at is obviously an alternate universe, but we're looking at the aging effects on the Avengers, right? We're dropped into this universe where Captain America is old and no longer has the super serum, and we see which Avengers are still left in this realistically dystopian kind of environment, and it's really, really interesting, and it's a really interesting spin on the characters, and watching them struggle as they're no longer in their prime and able to protect people in the way that they used to, and how that looks, and also how that looks in a society that doesn't really want anything to do with them. And so far it's been really interesting. I've had a really good time with it. The art is gorgeous. It's really got just some interesting points and concepts, in my opinion, so far. It's, I think, issue 4.
I 100% agree with Odfell. I finished reading issue 3 not too long ago. I need to get to the rest of it, apparently. But it's Kingdom Come meets Earth X meets Dark Knight's Return vibes, but with Captain America as the push forward and main character of the series. I had just finished rereading Uncanny Avengers by Rick Remender, which had Daniel Acuna art, and the Daniel Acuna art also reminded me some from his Uncanny Avengers run, because he drew the like alternate universe, what would happen if this, like, the Earth actually, like, something happens, but as a save vibes from Uncanny Avengers. So if you're looking for that style of art, this is exactly the book you should be looking for. And like, it's my Dark Knight Returns. I didn't get to live through it, but this is something for me that like speaks like, oh man, like an alternate universe, alternate future. Man, this is awesome. I love it. Also, apparently Chip's last Marvel work, maybe ever, because he's also teased that this is his last book at Marvel for a while or forever.
Forever?
All right.
That's
Forever.
That's a long time.
I definitely recommend for anyone to give this a shot, though. It's really unique and interesting, and they can experiment a lot more since it's not main universe.
100% agree.
All right. Some very interesting takes from the panel. Moving on, we have Spider-Boy. Spider-Boy Volume 2, Fun and Games, collecting Spider-Boy issues 5 through 8, which, if I'm counting correctly, have barely even come out yet. I think we've just wrapped up the first arc. This is Dan Slott. It is spinning out of his adjectiveless Spider-Man title from last year. And Spider-Boy, if you have not been following, he's always existed, but no one remembers. It's one of those situations. And I will say, I don't know if anybody else is reading this. It's kind of a very, very charming all ages young hero comic book, and I am a sucker for that. I'm a Power Pack fan from way back. Anytime anybody can successfully do a tween aged hero in the Marvel universe and have them kind of be on their own, it's always like really, really charming and something I love. So I know a lot of fans are like, oh, do we need another Spider character? I said that too on the first issue, but it's just real darn charming.
Yeah, I like this character. I read the first trade and I didn't know exactly what to expect. Can you show me what this one has?
This has
Peter?
5 through 8, so I don't think we're actually up to it yet in single. So maybe just the first one. Yeah.
I read the first trade and I liked a little bit of a twist. I love that Dan Slott just can't get away from the Spider characters. Like, he's doing Superior Spider-Man and now he's doing this. And it is Paco Medina. I love Paco Medina. I'm surprised that guy never really blew up to the caliber that I thought he should have by now. Like, get recognized. Like, you know, be one of these big names at either Marvel or DC. It's a great artist.
Yeah, and I would say that this is a book that it's got an arc to it and there's an ongoing story, but each of the issues is very one-shotty. It's trying to just tell one kind of moment in Spider-Boy's new life as he's trying to piece it back together. And the first few issues actually have 2 stories in them each, a lead story and then a kind of funnier backup story that also contributes a little bit more to his history. But there's kind of 2 interesting themes playing. One is that nobody remembers him, even though he's sure that he's real, kind of a Dawn from Buffy the Vampire Slayer vibe there. And then only kind of reverse. And then also B, this idea of like who actually made him Spider-Boy and what did they think about him being out there adventuring. So I like it, but I know it is not for everybody and not everybody likes these kind of younger heroes. Omar, one more question. Do you think somebody who likes Strange Academy would like this as the other kind of recent younger hero vibe book? I don't know if I have an answer to that.
Maybe in this volume, but in the first one, it was kind of him just getting adapted to being, in this universe. So he's hanging out with a bunch of adults, not like a bunch of kids,
True.
right? Was that Twilight book at OHC? No, that is. Hey, Keenan. Now it's my turn to get back to you. It is a trade paperback, and my wife also really enjoyed this one. Now this one's 200 pages and $29.99. We've talked about prices before, too, so that is something to keep in mind.
I will add to that, Omar. They recently dropped the price from $29.99 to $24.99 on Penguin Random House.
Oh, okay. Good news, Dom. Thank you for that. You usually don't drop prices. That's interesting. Okay. This series.
All right, now let's talk about a friend of the channel here with Carnage Volume 2, Symbiosis Necrosis, written by Torun Grombeck, penciled by Pedro Perez and the amazing Ken Lashley. This collects a crossover between Carnage 5 through 8 and Venom by Al Ewing, also in Torun Grombeck, 31 and 32. Omar, tell us about this very grim, horrific series from friends of the channel, Torun Grombeck.
She can write creepy. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And you're talking about, the character of Cletus Cassidy, who's a serial killer, and you've got Carnage, one of the deadliest characters in Marvel. So it always surprises me that writers and artists can work on a book of like dark villains like this. But then again, like Joker has had his own title. Poison Ivy's had her own title. And it's not the first time Joker's had it. Larry, remember like Bronze Age Joker and all those. Joker's had titles in the past.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm digging this one. My wife really enjoys how dark this one gets. I want to say this one is rated does it say if it's Teen Plus or Parental Advisory? Because it goes in. There are some things that
Parental Advisory.
It's Parental Advisory. Yeah, there are things that she does in here that kind of test the waters. Wow, that got dark. I'm digging it. It's fun. And if you haven't, tried it out, you definitely should.
It's also a pretty awesome art name.
Yeah, the first couple of issues were kind of a slow build, but I knew to give it a chance, and I think it's really sizzling now. It kind of starts out with making Carnage out to be is he just a serial killer? But Carnage is coming out from several years of him actually kind of as a symbiote being elevated to godhood. So it's kind of like what happens when you put a godlike power back in the same mentality of a serial killer that he was originally. Cletus Cassidy. Plus, that Venom on the cover is not that one, but in the book is actually Flash Thompson as Venom, who I love. So that is a good way to get me hooked on a Carnage book. All right. Next, we have Spider-Gwen Smash by Melissa Flores, penciled by Enid Balam, and this is all set in Earth 65. It collects Spider-Gwen Smash 1 through 4, but strangely not Giant-Size Spider-Gwen, which is also written by Flores and is an epilogue to the series What Are You Doing to Me, Marvel? But this follows Spider-Gwen on tour with her band as they open up for Earth 65's version of Dazzler. Has anybody been reading any Spider-Gwen recently?
Not this series. This is the new series.
Yeah, so it's a resounding no from the panel. I'll say
that's you, Peter.
It's got a little bit back to kind of the charm and heart of Spider-Gwen that I think has been missing in the past year. Her recent series, and I read them all to get up to this point, it's very clone this, clone that. It feels like they're really trying to just make her into multiverse Spider-Man carbon copy, but as Gwen, which I think if you go back to the beginning of Spider-Gwen, it's funny and it's fun and it's got heart because she really is not just another Peter Parker. And I think this is the first series in a while that's remembered that. However, I cannot recommend it. It's kind of just but I like Dazzler and I like music stuff and I like band jokes. So for me, it hit, but I don't think it's great. All right.
Okay.
Speaking of rockers, Spider rockers, we got Spider-Punk here with just a totally electric cover. This is Spider-Punk Arms Race. The second issue just came out this week. It is written by Cody Ziegler with pencils by Justin Mason and these amazing covers by Takashi Okazaki. This collects the full miniseries Spider-Punk Arms Race 1 through 4. It is a direct sequel to last year's Spider-Punk miniseries by the same creative team. And the first issue really just drops you in right in the middle. So if you haven't read last year's, you might want to just go back and start with that. This is really an arc number 2, just rebranded with a new number 1. Anybody reading Spider-Punk or read last year's Spider-Punk?
I enjoyed last year's Spider-Punk, but I haven't gotten a chance to read this one yet.
Yeah, I like last year's Spider-Punk. I wouldn't say it's in my top 10 reads, but it was fun for what it was. And this, I assume, is it the same creative team? The
Yep,
penciler? I
full
can't
same
remember.
team.
Okay. Yeah, looking forward to reading this one.
It's
Yeah,
got
I
some.
really dug. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Oval.
I was gonna say, I really like the tone and the atmosphere they built in last year's. I haven't gotten a chance to catch up to this one yet, but if it's the same team, it's gonna be a solid book. It's gonna be a good time. So,
And it's got some Ninja Turtles energy for me. I don't know if it's the artwork or just like how irreverent it is, but especially the fight scene in the first issue of this one, I was like, ooh, I'm getting some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from this.
Oh, okay.
All right, now we roll on to Marvel's Star Wars, starting with Star Wars Darth Vader by Greg Pak, Volume 9, Rise of the Schism Imperial. This collects Darth Vader 42 through 45. Also, Star Wars The Phantom Menace 25th Anniversary Special, and some material from Star Wars Revelations. I'm a massive fan of this Greg Pak Darth Vader series. Is anybody else reading it?
Oh, yeah, this is an excellent series. But man, Vader has had some killer creative teams on him. You know, from Kieran Gillen to
Charles Soule.
Charles Soule run, and now Greg Pak, who also had previously written Star Wars. It's been great, and each one, of course, coming from a different era, right? Like right now, we're in. This is between episodes
5 and 6.
Yeah, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Yeah, so it's interesting to see how much, because I know this happened a while back, but I don't like to spoil in case people are waiting for that omnibus. But the twist in the very first story arc with the character that plays a big part in this, like, I didn't see coming, and I always thought, why hasn't anybody ever done that before? That was so cool. And I mean, because of said movie, we kind of know where things are gonna go, but I'm curious to see what happens to some of these supporting casts.
Yeah,
Great.
that's why I like it, because I think that Darth Vader actually goes through a pretty big transformation between episode 5 and episode 6. He ends episode 5 confronting his son, and he kind of begins episode 6 a little bit on the outs with the Emperor. And I don't think I don't ever think I realized how big of a gap it was until I've read all that Greg Pak has done in this series. And I'm like, wow, Vader really did need to go through a pretty big transformation in this period. And this was really him at like the full height of being an evil anti-hero supervillain. And this is the first time we've ever really gotten to zoom in on it. And I just find it really, really delightful and strong material. And I don't know if I pick right up here. It's right after Dark Droids, and it's building on so much stuff that came before. But if you're really in it for like his conflict with the Emperor that comes to a head in episode 6, you could pick up here. But I think if you want to see that really shocking, thrilling thing that Omar was talking about, which I 100% agree, just start at the start. It's all on Marvel Unlimited. There's all the collections are out, and it's really good stuff.
And at this moment, I just want to remind you all to smash that like button. I got to get a word in while Peter is breathing. So
we absolutely look. If you're watching and you haven't liked yet, let's get those fingers a clicking, folks. Help us in the algorithm, right? We need those fingers clicking that like button.
Fingers
so smash
clicking.
it. Here is Star Wars Volume 8, The Sith and the Skywalker, written by Charles Soule, collecting Star Wars 42 through 45, material from Star Wars Revelations, and some material from Free Comic Book Day 2024 Star Wars. Anybody reading this Charles Soule Star Wars series?
Another one I've been reading in trade. I'm curious how long they're going to go with this series before they go to
it can't be too terribly long, because Bounty Hunters recently ended. Not too long ago, and same with Afra.
Breaks my heart about Bounty Hunters. I thought that was the most underrated out of this new Star Wars stuff. It was so good. Ethan Sachs was killing it. I'm curious, like, if they're going to go to 75 and then where they're going to go from there. Do you think we're going to have comics between episodes 7 and 8? Like, I don't know. What do you think, Larry? Are you a fan? What's the best Star Wars movie, Larry?
Probably Jedi.
Whoa, that's my favorite too. That's awesome. Do you think that they'll ever do comics in between episodes 7 and 8, 8 and 9, 6 and 7?
Probably haven't already, really.
Well, we've seen Dark Horse do post movie 6, right? Marvel really hasn't. So I'm wondering if they're going to do that or if they'll jump to the next trilogy or tie it into Mandalorian and Boba Fett, like stories in between. I am very curious when this ends, what will happen.
I will say that Solo has been this is a lot more fantastical, I think, than previous Star Wars series has been, which in the same way there's a lot of room for Darth Vader between the two movies, it feels like a lot of Leia and Luke and the Rebellion are in a somewhat similar place, although Luke kind of is in the black suit and he's got his like new lightsaber and stuff. So Soul has some chess pieces to move around the board, but he's also got a lot of open air, and it just feels like he's taken it in a much more fantasy realm than sci-fi, with some like they go into like a pocket universe at one point. They're dealing with the worlds inside of the what are the kyber crystals that power I'm not saying that right, that power the lightsabers. So it's kind of fun to delve into that stuff, but it feels like a little bit less vital to me than the Vader. Is anyone else in the panel be wearing the Planet of the Apes? And this is Mark Guggenheim.
The only note I really have on this is that they changed the name of the series twice before sticking with Beware of the Planet of the Apes.
What was it before?
It was just regular Planet of the Apes, and just Planet of the Apes by Mark Guggenheim. Then they added 2 subtitles before they eventually went out with this.
I like the first trade. I thought it was fun. But I'm a big fan of the Planet of the Apes movies. Larry, were you a fan of those original comics? I know Marvel did the omnibus of the color one. I
like them a lot. I haven't read this, but I like Guggenheim a lot, so I might pick this up if it gets OHC'd or Omni'd at some point. I don't know how many they're going to do, but
we don't either. It would be cool. Marvel's Command D. Yeah. I guess. Yes. Yeah.
All right. Now we come to another character who's finally getting some spotlight here in Blade Volume 2, Evil Against Evil, written by Brian Hill, with art by Elena Casagrande and Valentina Pinti. This collects the second arc of the series, although it's all one big story, in Blade issues 6 through 10. Omar, did you read the first trade of this already?
I did.
What do you think?
I like Elena Casagrande's art. The story, I was a little confused because it felt like something I had read in the past. Because of course, I think there was supposed to be a canceled line, and then it kind of spun out of what is her name? Bloodline? What is his daughter's name?
Bloodline, you're right.
Bloodline, okay, yeah. And it spun out of that. There's a team up in it that I kind of saw coming, but whenever you got Blade teaming up with this character, I'm curious where the story is going to go. And this all leads into the big event, right? If I'm not mistaken, even though that's a Jed McKay event, technically.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this leads into Blood Hunt or not. It's kind of very separate from typical vampire nonsense.
Well, the first trade was, yeah. But I don't know about this trade. Wait. Have you read any of the stories in here? Because you're probably further than I am.
Yeah, I'm up to issue 9, I think, which just came out this week.
Okay.
So I actually read the first couple of issues of this and gave up because I just found it boring. Actually, yeah. I was not impressed. It wasn't my thing. So that's it.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of happy Blade fans out there that he's getting some play and people enjoy Brian Hill writing him, but it just doesn't feel like he's much of a character, and the places where it really sings is where he's in a scene with another really strong character that's getting developed from scratch. But I'm like, well, where's the Blade? Like, I'm here for Blade. And it's so yeah, but it's great art, and I think it's an interesting story, but it's just not what I was looking for, unfortunately. I don't think. And I know a lot of people.
That's what I meant. It felt like I had read this before, and I was thinking, was it the canceled series? And where did this come from? Century Legacy.
It's written by Jason Liu, who's been doing some Unlimited X-Men stories. He got actually noticed on Twitter writing these goofy one-page comics about Multiple Man and got picked up in the X office, and now he's writing for Marvel. I think he's a really good writer, but this is a very strange series. It's a Sentry miniseries that really could have been titled Jessica Jones because she is the featured character and she really is the point of view character. Also, it does not have the Sentry that you know and remember, and it has none of the characters on the cover there. And it's basically just Jessica Jones with a little bit of an assist from Misty Knight, looking into why it seems like the Sentry is back when they all know Bob Reynolds to be dead. I would also say it has a little DNA in common with the movie Chronicle, if anybody has watched that indie superhero movie.
Okay.
Dom, have you been reading this one?
I know about it. I did also pick up on Jason Liu because he had drawn and written a backup in Teeny Howard's X-Corp issue, and I've been reading all of X-Men Unlimited because some of my friends over in the X office have been writing some fun stories over there. So when I had a chance to, I was like, yeah, let me check out the new Sentry book. Not exactly what I was expecting. Also, I would agree that it doesn't exactly feel like a main Sentry book, but it's definitely different from what I expected. I will say that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty fun book, and if you like Jessica Jones, I think it's much more for Jessica Jones fans than for Sentry fans.
I was never a fan of the Sentry. I thought the idea was really cool for a one miniseries, but then I think people kept just reusing the character over and over with no purpose. So when they kind of did away with him, I was like, oh, cool. And then I think Jeff Lemire had a little miniseries.
Which actually kind of was enjoyable. I enjoyed that. Lemire was right around when he was being brought back in the end of Cates's Doctor Strange.
With and Paul Jenkins is very hit and miss with me. The Funeral for Sentry, was it the funeral? What was it called? It was a one shot in the aftermath of the siege.
Fallen Sun?
Fallen
No,
Sun.
maybe not.
Yeah, something horrible like that. That was awful. I hated that. There was a bad retcon that did not make any sense in that book. So yeah, I was ready for the Sentry to leave, and I'm surprised they keep bringing him back. But that probably has to do with the movie and the rumor that he might appear in the Thunderbolts. Probably. All right, let's get to it.
All right, let's all get deep into our BS here with some X-Men. This is Fall of the House of X, Rise of the Powers of X, written by Jerry Dugan and Kieran Gillen. It collects Fall of the House of X 1 through 5, Rise of the Power X of X 1 through 5, materials from X-Men 35. And I'm hoping and praying that they're going to change the contents of this book entirely, because I will say that this House of X and Powers of X just do not go together like Hickman's. Dugan's Fall of the House of X really goes with his X-Men run. Gillen's Rise of the Powers of X really goes with his X-Men Forever and Dead X-Men, which absolutely should be read alongside it issue by issue so that it makes any sense. And I think that, unfortunately, even though some of the quality is there, that this map is going to be a horrific read in trade paperback. And that's the crisis stamp of disapproval.
I know, I completely agree with Peter in the fact that there are so many. We have, I think, 11 or 12 X titles right now, and some more issues that are being added on, like Avengers by McKay, that are being thrown into the fire of the end of the Krakoan era. And it's gone to the point where all of them are just so seemingly interconnected with different parts and parts that you will feel left out if you are not reading some adjacent titles along with this. And because those aren't in this book, with the weird addition also of the material of X-Men 35, which ends off the Krakoan era, I don't know if this is going to be the exact read that Marvel or who is making this trade paperback out to be. Is going to feel disconnected. I have no idea how they're going to go through, but yeah, this is a weird collection for sure. But I think they're trying to do it in the same vein as House of X, Powers of 10 by Hickman. So this is why it's here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you will get the story of the end of the era, but it's just missing a solid 8 issues that it needs to let you know what's actually happening.
This is also not a hardcover, by the way,
Nope.
for people that are watching this right now. This is a trade paperback, and I guess they really are done with oversized hardcovers, and I'm surprised that they didn't end the Krakoa era with an oversized hardcover. Can you scroll down? Because one more time, Peter, I wanted to see the 312 pages, $50. What was the price on the trade paperback of the
House of Powers.
Sins of Sinister. So I want to say in the last couple of years, trades have gone up, and I think it was 300 and something
It
pages.
was $50 for 344 pages.
Okay.
Wow,
These are
that's wild. Because there was controversy about the Immortal Thor Volume 1 trade paperback being really high priced as well.
we talked about that on the live stream whenever we were doing this. We thought it was a price mistake, and then we were like, I don't know. I know that that book in particular and the X books get printed in the United States. I don't know how much it costs to print these books, nor would they ever tell me. So that could be one of the things. But if Sins of Sinister was also $50, then I assume that's why they're charging this much. Yeah, but
I will say one thing for big fans of the Hickman stuff. Kieran Gillen in his half of this is directly sequeling Hickman's Powers of X, and he's dealing with Dominion stuff. So if you've been signed up for the resolve of that amazing cliffhanger in the future of the original Powers of X back in 2019, and you're like, when are they going to touch that plot? Gillen is touching it all over. So if that's the part of this that you have loved, this will be satisfying to you. Whereas the Duggan half in Fall of the House of X more is dealing with the Orcus plot, but that's also unfolding in the actual X-Men ongoing series. So it's like not as satisfying. Whereas Gillen, this is the center stage of Gillen's plot. So the Duggan stuff feels like it's only 50%, and the Gillen stuff is like this is the center bank. But let's move on.
The Sins of Sinister oversized hardcover was $75.
But the trade was 50.
The trade was 50. Yeah, and I think so was the Life and Death of Wolverine. X 10 Lives X Stats. Yeah, of Wolverine. Yeah.
Y'all, we've got so many pages left to go. This is Cable United We Fall, written by Fabian Nicieza with art by Scott Eaton. It is in the present day continuity. It is happening during Fall of X, and it does collect Cable 1 through 4. It's got a kind of classic feel because it's Nicieza writing him, but it has a lot of fun nods to a lot of 90s continuity while still being a
I'm very surprised that they chose a John Romita Jr. variant from the series versus one of the main covers. I think that's really
yeah, that's the that was like a house ad and poster for the 2-issue miniseries, Fabian's first Cable miniseries with new colors though, so that's pretty. Let's go ahead.
I was gonna say I do feel like, I mean, both Cables are present, right? You've got young Cable and old Cable in there, but I do feel like with covers, they're like, if we put old Cable on the cover, this will sell. Because I know some people are still kind of hit or miss on young Cable in the story.
Really? Okay, interesting. Next up is Resurrection of Magneto. This is the continuation of Al Ewing's series, right?
This is really like an epilogue to X-Men Red.
Yeah.
I thought this was fun.
I love this.
Yeah, I did too.
It takes place in a really cool, like, mindscapey type setting due to the nature of it all. But because of that, it's got really cool visuals and really just creative ways of showing the emotions of the characters that I found really entertaining.
I will also add that Vecchio's art, I think, has taken a step up in this series compared to 100%. What I saw from before this. Like, absolutely a huge step up from what he was doing. So,
absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, it's a major.
Yeah, I've been enjoying
it.
Red.
But there's more.
Wolverine
by Benjamin Percy, Volume 9. It's the second half of the Sabretooth War, written by Benjamin Percy and Victor Lavelle. This takes Wolverine to the end of this 2020 series in issues 46 through 50 as Wolverine faces off against Sabretooth and a fleet of additional Sabretooths from around the multiverse.
Is Wolverine wearing an adamantium armor?
He looks like Strife.
I was gonna say the same thing. He does.
This is just so weird. Okay, whatever.
Right.
I'm gonna read it. Whatever. All right, what's next?
Laval going all out.
And this Wolverine arc is very much a sequel to Lavalle's Sabretooth and Sabretooth and the Exiles. It's not as tied into what's been happening in the Wolverine series itself, even though it's part of the Wolverine series. So for those of you who really like Sabretooth, this is the read to continue to.
Okay.
And then we come to X-Men by Jerry Duggan, Volume 6. This is the end of Duggan's run. It has issues 30 through 34, though not issue 35, which we saw is going to be in that House of X, Powers of X trade.
And this wraps up
This wraps up
Krakoa
the Duggan.
era along with the Rise and Fall, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And this is very, very focused on Sync. It's very focused on Kate Pride and a little bit of Ileana Rasputin as well. Oh, Odell, I know you must be keeping up with this one, right?
So I'm not fully caught up, but I am reading it because, like, I heard. So I'm behind on X-Men in general, but when I heard they're giving more shine to Magic, I absolutely started catching up. So the parts I've read so far have been really good and refreshing. I took a break after Inferno, but I'm really glad that I've jumped back in because it looks like things are kind of heating up again.
Dom of X, any comments from you on this end run of X-Men?
It's drawn really well. There are some. I'm just. I keep up with the series, and I'm gonna be sad because the whole Krakoa thing was like my gateway into X-Men. And just to see it all collapse, maybe is not the right word, but just to see it all like pushed off. It's sad for me because like I got into Marvel because of House of X and Powers of 10. So it's kind of sad to see all of these things get solicited because you're like, oh man, like where did all this time go? Like I was in high school when this all started coming out, and now it's like, man, full-fledged adult. But it is what it is.
Larry, would you like to answer that question? Would you like to answer Dom's question of where did all this time go?
I guess I'm just jaded from X-Men. I mean, I just feel like I don't need any more X-Men. There's so much, I mean, I'm glad people are enjoying it.
We all need more X-Men, Larry. There can always be so much more X-Men, Larry. All
now,
right,
folks,
Curtis.
we come to everybody's favorite part of the show is the epic section, which Curtis will have many things to say about. So, Curtis, we have a modern epic collection here for Venom Space Knight, Volume 6 in the Venom Modern Era Epic Collections.
I've been waiting for 2 hours and 1 minute for this moment here. This is a long streak, guys. And I need to go make my kids lunch. They're on spring break. And so we're going to get through these epics, which actually there are a lot in this catalog. And then I need to jump off. But this is the modern era epic collection for Venom. We've already had 2 volumes of this, Volume 4 and Volume 5, which collected the Agent Venom era. And this wraps up the Agent Venom era with 36 to 42. And then we kind of get Flash Thompson goes to outer space, joins with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and becomes a Space Knight and gets his own spin-off series from that, Space Knight 1 to 13. So none of his adventures with the Guardians are collected in this book. I'm assuming there will be like a page to let us know why he's in outer space and why he's a Space Knight. But that's what we have here.
All right. Moving on to another Venom Epic Collection, but this one is a classic Epic Collection. Venom Epic Collection, The Hunger, Volume 7 of Venom Epic Collections, which collects another whole raft of these Venom miniseries up until Venom the Finale in 1997, Curtis.
So you know that Venom has a movie coming out this fall because they have overloaded this fall with so many Venom Epic Collections. It's not just this, but there's another one. There'll be another one in the next month previews as well. Or maybe it's this month. I can't even remember. But this collects. So in the 90s, Venom had an ongoing series, but they broke it up into little mini series and rebooted it like every 4 issues or 3 issues was another number 1. So this wraps up his ongoing series.
This will be the last one, right?
This is going to be the last one of that. There may be still another still another classic era after this, but this is, as far as his series is concerned, this is the last volume, and it has the same cover as a previous thick Venom trade that collected a lot of the same material. That one was called. I can't remember. It was named after the Wolverine miniseries.
Tooth and Claw?
Tooth and Nail. Tooth and Claw. That's right. Tooth and Claw.
Now, there is a Omnibus Volume 3, which does push past this. And I think the question is, does some of that push into what would then become a modern era epic collection, including the Venom versus Carnage 1 through 4? And off the top of my head, I don't know if they've numbered the modern era Venom epics that it would be in there. I can't think of it.
It would start
Modern
with Daniel
Verum,
Wade, right? Is
yeah.
what we
So
thought.
that's coming out next month. Is Modern Era Volume 1, and it's starting with Daniel Way. So everything that you're going to see at the back end of that Venomnibus number 3 is going to be Venom Epic Collection Volume 8.
All right, there you go. Answers from Curtis, the man who knows. And now we have a
There you
new printing of an existing Epic, Daredevil Epic Collection, Root of Evil. It's number 19 Daredevil Epic Collection. It collects Daredevil 333 through 344, plus the Elektra Root of Evil miniseries. Is it the last of the 1964 Daredevil volume, Curtis?
No, it is not. There's
one more.
another one after this. But this one is significant because a few years back, Marvel used a special printer called Quad Graphics in Saratoga Springs, and they did a terrible job of printing Epic Collections. And this was one of the worst offenders. It had pages that were falling out. It had covers that were misaligned. It had weird, random, glossy pages right in the middle for no reason. It was just a big mess. And so now we are getting, and it was voted, because it was a mess, it was voted in the reprint poll in the top 20, so which is why it's on the list now. As far as the content goes, honestly, not the greatest content, but people want a better quality trade paperback.
Great.
Is it?
I like
Is it
Root of
really?
Evil. Got good Scott McDaniel artwork. This is the was it the printer in America, right? That you hated so much.
Yeah, Quad Graphics. I'm surprised they put Alan Smithy in the credits there, because that's not a real person.
No, it's a name that you use when you do not wish to be credited.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see it there.
This is the printer that was in like where I used to live, was just like 2 miles down the road.
Yeah,
Curtis was going off on it one day. But it's been bought out, and now it's the Sheridan printer, which used to print some of the Marvel OHCs. What's the next one?
The next one is one that Curtis and I are very excited about. It is Generation X Epic Collection, Pride and Penance, Volume 4, that collects Generation X 33 through 47 and their shared annual with Dracula from 1998, as well as X-Men Unlimited 20 and the Generation X Holiday Special. Curtis.
So this is the second era of Generation X, after the original creators have all left the team and Larry Hama takes over. Terry Dodson is now on art and kind of early in his Marvel career. And it is not often that we get nowadays an Epic collection with 100% uncollected material, but this is one of them. Yeah. This definitely a step down from the first couple of volumes. Larry Hama is very strange. It goes into some completely bizarre and nuts areas in his run here. And if you know a lot of his characters from his Wolverine run, like Dirt Nap, the rat with the smiley face on it, and like those characters come back here in this run, and it's just so weird.
I agree. This is when, I had left comics by the point Larry Hama took over the book. This is interesting. Heath, you're only 20 minutes away? Yeah. I lived in Versailles, Kentucky. They're now the Sheridan printer, so you can try to get a job there. Used to be Rand McNally, the same people that used to print maps. Deadpool, Johnny Handsome.
It's the 5th volume in the Deadpool Epic Collection series. It collects Deadpool 1997, 34 through 45, as well as a one-issue crossover to Black Panther by Christopher Priest, 2 issues of Deadpool Fighting Wolverine from Wolverine 1998, 154 and 155, and Heroes Reborn Remnants, Fight Man #1, and some material from a Wolverine annual. Curtis.
This collects all of Christopher Priest's run on Deadpool. This is the stuff after Joe Kelly has stepped off the title, and this is the immediate stuff after it. And you can tell also there's a Deadpool movie coming out as well with Wolverine in it, so we get a nice Deadpool and Wolverine cover here by Rob Liefeld.
Who plotted those issues of Wolverine and drew them.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Those issues are already... those issues are already collected in a Wolverine volume. Fight Man #1 is interesting here. That's not collected in the Deadpool Classics or the Deadpool Omnibus or anything like that. So it's a new addition to the Epic collections. Doesn't have anything to do with Deadpool, except I think Fight Man must make an appearance in one of these issues or something like that, right?
I thought it was in the Omnibus, the classic Omnibus. I could be wrong.
Is it?
I thought
I could be wrong also.
But I don't think the Wolverine 99 is in there. This one's 488 pages and $44.99, taking us to the next Epic collection.
Next Epic collection, extending a line that I love. It's Namor the Submariner Epic Collection, Titans 3, Volume 3, and Namor the Submariner. And of course, Titans 3 refers to the introductory prelude to what eventually becomes the Defenders. Curtis.
Submariner didn't get an Epic collection last year, and so people were, especially people who love this era of Marvel, were really disappointed that we didn't get anything. And so now we do get more Submariner, but they skipped over Volume 2 for some reason.
Yeah, I was confused for a second there.
You know the reason.
We think it's because the Mighty Masterworks material is plowing through that. And is that the reason you were thinking? No? What's the reason? What's the reason, Omar?
Oh, I was thinking this is what they always do with Epic collections.
Oh yeah, because it's out of order, but it's still great. This is Roy Thomas's run on Submariner, and you get some very classic 1970s Marvel action.
All right,
Yeah,
and that
ready
is
for my Omni.
512 pages for $50. Next Epic collection, it's The Incredible Hulk Ground Zero. It's volume 15 in The Incredible Hulk. This is still in the Peter David era, actually, I believe wrapping it up as we're in Incredible Hulk 331 through 347. Oh, no, I'm sorry, much earlier. I was lying. Incredible Hulk 3 beginning 331 through 346. And Marvel graphic novel Incredible Hulk and the Thing, The Big Change. Yeah, I was thinking there was 431 and 436, but this is the very start of Peter David. Omar, big fan of this, aren't you?
Yeah, I like this one a little. But this also has the Bernie Wrightson graphic novel with the Hulk and the Thing, which alone,
which is great.
If you've never read, is worth the price of admission. It's beautiful. But yeah, this is the beginning of the Ground Zero. This is when McFarlane stopped being inked by everybody else, and I don't know, he talked his editor into letting him ink himself, and the world was never the same. Because after that, he blew up in Spider-Man, and then did this thing called Spawn. It's crazy. But yeah, I love this stuff in here. It's good. It's the beginning of a few story arcs that will be getting paid off later on. Oh, so good.
Curtis?
Yeah, this is really good stuff. I do enjoy this beginning of Peter David's run for sure. And coupled with that graphic novel, which is already in one of the Fantastic Four Epic collections, it's just excellent stuff.
No, Big Change is not in the Peter David Omnis.
Yeah,
Larry, any thoughts on this classic material before we head onward?
Yeah, I just recently read the first 3 Peter David Omnis, and so yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, and that's coming from a guy that's not a '90s guy, but I do like Peter David a lot, so I wanted to try these things, and I did like it more than I thought I would. So,
are you a fan of Submariner?
Big fan. I tried to collect that in singles 2 or 3 different times, and I just never could get all of them together because some of them are not so expensive, and others are very expensive, and I tried several times. Finally, gave up and just sold what I had because I couldn't complete it. And I really want this in Omni. So, yeah.
All right. Now, Curtis, you are the best on the internet at explaining just how this puzzle fits together. This is Star Wars Legends Epic Collection, The Rebellion, Volume 6, which collects a whole lot of Rebellion material that I'm not going to read all of. Why don't you just explain to us where this fits into the puzzle that is Star Wars Legends Epics?
Right. So the epics have divided all of the Dark Horse Star Wars material by era. And instead of presenting it chronologically in publication order, they're they're publishing it chronologically in timeline order. So the Rebellion era of Star Wars takes place between Episode 5 and Episode 6. This is Volume 6, so this is actually the last volume of the Rebellion era. It's going to end with Tale of Return of the Jedi content, and this is the second to last Star Wars Dark Horse material epic collection.
That's
and then,
insane.
Yeah, this is the second to last one. Then we're going to have it all collected in these epics. That's amazing.
And what is left? What are we waiting for, Curtis?
We're just waiting for the New Republic Volume 8. And then after that, there's actually a Droids and Ewoks Omni that's Marvel material. But then after that, we have all of the Legends stuff that Marvel is allowed to publish under one banner, the Epic Collection.
Amazing.
Like, how many books, Curtis, just for Star Wars?
It's like 52 or 53 or something like that.
Okay. Hey, Aliens, the original Marvel years.
So this continues the original years, because it was also dark.
The same Marvel year.
It was all Dark Horse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pressing through some more of the early Dark Horse material. We've already seen this in the Aliens Omnibus. So Curtis, since you buy all epics, is Aliens included in that?
Oh yeah. In fact, I loved the first Aliens epic collection. I thought that the stories were just fantastic. So if they can keep up that quality in this one, then I'll be happy. I haven't read any of it before. It's all new to me, but thoroughly enjoy it.
The first, I would say, the first 4 volumes of Aliens epics are going to be amazing for you, Curtis. They're so good, dude.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love the fact that they went back to the original names. Now they didn't have to worry about copyrights. They can call the characters by their movie names. It's really cool. I'm a big fan of this stuff.
What Omar is referring to is at the time, because they had extended some of the movies, but then the movie characters conflicted with what wound up happening in the movies, and then there was copyright stuff on top of that. Then when Dark Horse originally reprinted this material, they had to change who the characters were in the stories. And so this is restoring it back to as it was originally published. All right. We are finally out of the epic section, although this is certainly kind of epic in nature. This is Darkhold, the Saga of the Book of Sins. So what is this? It's a repackaging of a lot of Darkhold background material from Marvel Spotlight 4, Werewolf by Night 1 and 3, Avengers 185 through 187, and Doctor Strange 59 through 62, a really classic arc of Doctor Strange there, and some material from Dracula Lives. It's almost as if there's going to be a Disney Plus show that's very focused on the Darkhold coming later this year and starring Agatha Harkness.
It was Agatha all along.
Yeah, this is absolutely coming out so that way people can either retroactively go and read this after seeing the show or prep for the show, but I'm not mad to see it because not a lot of Wanda-centric stories that you need to know things about are collected well, so it'll be a nice little tool in the arsenal if anyone is trying to track down Wanda stories.
What is the contents of the book again, Peter?
I think it might be the same as the previous Darkhold kind of collection of this nature. It's got Marvel Spotlight, Werewolf by Night 1 and 3, Avengers 185 through 187, Doctor Strange 59 through 62, and some material from Dracula Lives, because I know there was already a Darkhold classic trade paperback. I'm trying to refresh my memory.
Avengers Doctor Strange is what it was. The Darkhold something, I think. That trade paperback.
Rise of the Darkhold, right, Omar?
Yeah, I think that's what it was called. How many pages? But this one's only 224 pages. That was
the last one was about 500, I believe.
Yeah.
I think we need a Darkhold Omni. This is good stuff. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so the difference was that previous book had material from Thor,
Peter.
And it had material. Yes.
Hey, Peter. I just need to say goodbye just before you keep on going.
Okay. Curtis, where can people find you before you log off?
Just going to just go over to epicmarvelpodcast.com or find me in the Epic Collection, various Epic Collection groups on Facebook and social media in general. I'm all over the place. James is posting some links in the chat. Thanks, James.
Hey,
and,
Curtis, before you leave, let me know in the group chat when a good Thursday would be for you in April to do the epic evergreen videos.
Okay, sure.
Okay?
You got it. We'll do.
Be good, buddy. Thanks for being here.
See ya. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
All
All
right.
right. So yes, there was an older trade, and it was more comprehensive. It had more
it was
material.
huge.
Yeah, it was 496 pages.
I bet
That was
this
in
one focuses
2018.
more and more on Wanda than it does the Dark. Probably Agatha and Wanda more than it does the actual Darkhold. Because there was a whole Darkhold comic too. And speaking of, my wife was so confused because she's reading Scarlet Witch: The Last Door, which if you haven't, it's amazing. And she was like, "When did Agatha look like this?"
Yeah, can we talk about how they
So-
yassified her? Like, oh my god, I thought that was Clea at first.
I mean, they like yassified her past. What is that actress's name who I'm actually in love with? It just floated out in my head.
Oh, Catherine Hahn.
Han. But like
Yes.
this doesn't even look like Catherine Hahn. They moved the yassification filter a little too far to the right, I think.
Yeah, literally, I was like, so I was catching up on Midnight Suns today, and I literally, when they first showed her, I'm like, did Clea dye her hair black? What's happening? Like, this looks like Clea, and then they were like Agatha, and I was like, what's happening?
So this is a very interesting collection of material. It has some classic Agatha Harkness as the nanny for the Fantastic Four issues.
Yes.
And then it also has some other Fantastic Four and Avengers, but then it pairs it with this very, very modern material, which is Midnight Suns 1 through 5. And Odefeld, what is Midnight Suns?
So Midnight Suns is a very good spin-off of oh my gosh, the name is escaping me. The Magic Academy one. Why is my brain blanking?
Strange Academy?
Strange Academy, thank you. It is a spin-off dealing with some Strange Academy characters, and essentially one of the main characters in that has a prophecy that every single magical user can see about an apocalyptic situation. So we've got a ragtag group of heroes trying to help that kid, while the rest of the magic universe is kind of coming after her like, no, we got to neutralize her. So it's a really fun little...
Yeah. We got some old people in the chat that don't know what the hell you two are talking about. I'm gonna let Oddfell, would you please explain that?
So yassifying is like glamourifying someone. Like someone will take something that's like, it's like
is that like those terrible filters in social media? Is that what you're talking about?
Like the KFC guy, right? What he looks like. Do you remember that ad campaign where they made like hot actors play the KFC guy?
Oh, the hot daddy KFC.
Yeah, that's yassifying. Like when you're like making someone like attractive for no reason, really. You're just cranking them to a 10.
Interesting. I knew what it was because my kids had some friends over and they were talking about it was a video game character. I was like, what the hell are you all talking? What does that even mean?
It's like gratuitous glamour.
But then when you like take it way too far, it almost turns into like Jokerification, because the people like get so smiley and their faces get so made up and they get so pinched thin that they start looking like 1989 era the Joker. If you push it too far.
Ryan, when did she turn?
Scarlet Witch by Steve Orlando and Sarah Pichelli.
Well, okay.
How did they explain that?
Collected in here though.
So
because I figured that would be a good, because it happened in one issue. I'm surprised they didn't collect that in here because she's on the cover, but the majority of the stories in here is old Agatha.
If you read Midnight Suns, oh sorry, go ahead.
No, tell us. Speak
I was gonna say,
none of us know what we're talking about.
Yeah, if you read Midnight Suns, she like disappears and then just comes back young, and it's just like assumed she rejuvenates somehow. It is explained in Scarlet Witch, but theoretically you wouldn't have to read Scarlet Witch because they show you that in Midnight Suns. It would just help to have those issues. But I guess if they're trying to keep it concise, they're like, let's just do this instead. But she does like disappear old and come back young. They just don't explain it at all.
Okay. We also have a Spider-Gwen recollection here. This is one of the I believe, Omar, this is one of the digest size. Yeah, it's got that 6x9 trim size. One of the digest size recollections of Ghost Spider, and now this is pushing into the Shannon McGuire writing on Ghost Rider, which I actually thought was pretty charming and enjoyable. That follows her both at home and in our universe as well.
This is when they turned her into the officially Ghost Spider.
Yes.
Yes.
So she became Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider during that series. Yep. Yeah, I like this one. Spider-Gwen was a character hit and miss. Some of the stories were good, some of them were charming, and I liked her with the whole Miles thing and a big part of the Spider-Verse. That was nice. So, yeah.
We got one final book here, and Omar and the Junior Mints were just talking about this.
Yes. The Mighty Marvel Masterworks, The Mighty Thor, Volume 4, When Meet the Immortals. Oh, I love that the cover is an homage to that classic cover of Thor 126. But yeah, this is when Journey into Mystery officially became Thor, and you're getting Thor 126 and 127. Larry, is this like, what's your favorite era of Thor, Larry?
Actually, it's probably leading up to 300, issue 300.
Ragnarok stuff, the Roy
with the that's where the fourth host of Celestials came.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really into that, and of course the Simonson run, But
oh yeah, that's a good one.
But that issue 300 is just the Keith Pollard art. It's that was when I actually bought that when it came out, and so I don't know. It's a lot of nostalgia for me for that one. But
this is no, Ghost Spider is Spider-Gwen. She just decided Spider-Gwen is a stupid name to have, and Spider-Woman's already taken, so she decided Ghost Spider. It's the same
named
character.
her Ghost Spider, even though she doesn't turn invisible, which Miles does. So why wouldn't Miles be called Ghost Spider? Although Miles is Spider-Man, let's just give a totally irrelevant name to Gwen because her costume is white.
Now, before we go any further, I do have a quick word from our sponsor. If you live in Europe and you're interested in purchasing any of these books, check out wallscomicshop.com. They're based out of Berlin, Germany, and they have the cheapest pre-order prices for Marvel and DC big books, and flat shipping rates for 12 euros for all EU countries. And you use the code nearmintcon at checkout, all one word. You get free shipping for your next order in the EU with over 40 euros or more. And that's wallscomicshop.com, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe.
Ding!
Thank you for that, Dom. I appreciate that. My wife would appreciate that too.
Omar, we made it. We made it to the end.
I told you got this. You don't even need me, dude. Look, you got you ran
This is
man.
a long catalog. I'm sweating.
Give me the
sweating
February
and getting the
catalog.
chills.
All right, what's the one book you guys are most excited for? And everybody that is watching right now, what is the one book out of this entire solicit that you are most excited for? I'm gonna let my guests go first because I'm always curious what. I'm assuming Curtis would have picked something like Aliens because he really enjoyed it, or maybe even the Peter David, the beginning of the Incredible Hulk. But what about you? Who's ready? Larry, how about you, buddies?
That Fantastic Four Omni. That's probably it for me.
Volume 5. Yeah, it's coming out.
Yeah, Volume 5. Yeah.
Just because of getting the single issues or nostalgia?
Being able to read all of it straight through because, I had a bunch of the singles, but I never had all of it in consecutive order. And yeah, it's going to be good. I'm reading them straight through from the first volume. So I'm going to, I've read the first 2, I think now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So yeah, that's looking forward to that.
And I'll highlight what everybody's putting in the chat here in a little bit. What about you, Oddfell? What's the book you're most excited for out of this collection?
There's a lot of really good ones this time, actually. I'm trying to think. Because some of them I want as a collector, but some of them I haven't read yet. I'm gonna say, you know what?
The yassification of Agatha?
Yeah. I'm gonna say Spider-Punk, actually. I'm really excited to dive into that. I haven't read it yet, but I am really excited for it because I've been trade waiting for it. But I really like the first half, and I think that's probably my top pick. There's a lot of really good contenders, though. There's a lot of really good books coming out. So,
all right, Domovax, what about you, buddy?
It's a good question because a lot of these, I have to keep track just because I work for a website that we keep track of all these on. I don't know if I'm particularly thrilled or excited for anything in here just because of my current living situation and the shelf space. But if I had to pick one, you know what? It might be that modern epic Venom collection just because I haven't gotten to that point yet.
Okay, the Space Knight stuff.
I have not read much of that era of Venom, so it would
Okay.
fill a gap in my brain that hasn't been filled yet.
Excellent. Peter, what about you, buddy? What's the
There's
one
an-
book you're most excited for?
Obvious answer for me here, and I think it's probably Curtis's answer as well, which is that Generation X trade, because as Curtis said, it's collecting X-Men issues that have never been collected before. There's not a lot of more times that we get to
No,
say
you're
that,
right,
which
you're
is
right, you're right.
honestly pretty amazing. And even if it's kind of like some oddball material, I do have it all in singles, but the ability to have it on the shelf, the ability to just pick it up and read it as a book, and that means it'll be on Marvel Unlimited. So to me, wins all around. This will be at the top of my purchase stack from this catalog.
Okay.
Omar, what about you?
I'm a big fan of the yassification of the Road to Onslaught Omnibus Volume 1. Now, because
You're
of
just
the
gonna
stream, I'm
abuse
using
that
that.
term.
Well,
You
my
should
kid's
never
gonna
teach me
annoy
words.
It's gonna annoy the crap out
Omar,
of
do
my
not
kid.
say it like that.
We are going to be getting a new cover. I will unveil that in a future episode. But if you scroll down, the contents have changed. They are adding things that we asked to be added and making it into a 2-volume set. So please keep that also in mind. It's not going to be this 1,300 page, 150. I think it was going to be about $150 omnibus. It is now going to be 2 volumes with, I assume the next volume is going to have 912 pages too. So it'll be 1,800 plus pages of wrote the Onslaught material. I'm hoping they can add the Storm miniseries as well. And just saw your message. Okay, now I'm gonna see what everybody else is excited for, because that's what I like to see. So we got Venom, Modern Epic, Fantastic Four Volume 5, joining the ranks of Larry, Avengers Twilight. My wife absolutely loved that.
It's great,
series.
man.
Dom and Oddfell approved. X-Men and Wolverine, Omnis, and Fantastic Four, 5. Man, people really excited for that. Hulk by Cates, but I'll be buying the Death of Wolverine too. I'm so excited for the Keenan, stop it. Don't be that guy. Wait, no, never mind. You're not getting it. Never mind. Werewolf by Night, Marvel Masterworks, probably the Road to Onslaught. You darn right, the Road to Onslaught. It's catalog's been easy on my wallet. $150 Omni, $275, and the Hulk Omni regular. Death of Wolverine, Decimation, FF5, Onslaught, Road to Onslaught Volume 1, Venom Epics, Road
That's
to Onslaught.
easy on your wallet.
I don't know how much that man makes. He
What
could
kind of
make a lot
wallet?
of that. We don't talk about that in this channel. Road to Onslaught. Just can't wait to see the pushed out of the hobby again. What if it doesn't? Like rereading it, Peter just quits doing any more of his mapping. He's like, I'm out again. I read Road to Onslaught.
Hey man, I
FF5.
survived Bendis X-Men. Nothing's gonna get me to leave now.
Oh, see, now you're back in my page. Like, okay, you're good again. Everything you said about Deadly Genesis. FF Omni contains my favorite issues. Wolverine, Road to Onslaught. Decimation is up on my list. And Venom Modern, Hulk by Cates. In all seriousness, actually, I was about to say this. Ultimate Spider-Man gets my seal of approval for anybody that hasn't read it. I'm with Dom. I'm with Peter. I think even Larry should check it out, even though he swore off modern comics after 2012. This is completely worth it, especially capturing that magic of Peter Parker and the fantastical element of being a superhero. I loved it.
And it's a Hickman we haven't seen for a while. It's like heartfelt Hickman, which he hasn't really done a super lot of in modern Marvel since he's been back after his indie break. So it's kind of like more, if you really like Hickman on Future Foundation, it's like that vibe of Hickman, which is my favorite version of Hickman.
I will also say that just because we were just, I guess, so used to like, oh, he's building up to this next big thing. Well, this is, I think, a story where he doesn't have to be attached to hey, like I gotta get to the next like big event that I'm writing up for. It's beautifully like self-contained in its pocket and within its own element. And I think that's just part of the shine in for me. It's like I mean, Hickman's my favorite writer, but it's something that I haven't seen from him since, gosh, that finale to that Vault issue that he wrote in X-Men. And I would like to see some more of that, and I hope he stays on the book for a very long time.
Okay. What If Into the Multiverse Volume 2? That was my second choice, by the way. Still on the fence about Hulk by Cates. How was his? Thor was better. Hulk was stupid fun. That's the best way I can describe it. That'll happen with some X Factor comics too. Excited for that. Omar said, look at dad trying to stay hip. I am a dad that stays hip. Thank you so much. The Jacksonville. Y'all stop using that term. We're leaving that for Peter only. And Onfell. Ultimate Spider-Man. All right. Ultimate Spider-Man. I love all this Ultimate Spider-Man. I bought the 5-issue Midnight Suns because of Magic. Love Magic. Showing up for the... Oh, you know I'm here for that, James. You know it. Onslaught. A day closer not hearing about this book again. Shut up, Decimation. The day after one shot. Avengers Twilight and the Sentry. Is Twilight continuing from this trade? I don't think so, right?
No, it's a 6-issue miniseries that Chip has been working on for apparently since 2019. So this has been in the works for a while.
Venom Modern Epic. Bendis X-Men was amazing. Peter, what are you talking about? That's not a book. Omar's the new Avengers Volume 1 reprint delayed. No, it'll be in the catalog. Keep in mind, there are books here for November and December. We'll see it in the next catalog. How's Ultra Force and our pal Alf doing on the Omni poll? I just looked at the poll. We have over 1,200 votes, so make sure you go and vote, everybody.
Is that like
everybody.
double last year's votes, Omar?
That's already doubled last year's votes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I love that people are voting because it validates all the hard work that we did like the 2 nights before, just making sure it gets like I was insane.
And people who thought that there's so many things, nobody's going to vote for them all. Last time I checked, of the 600 and something books on the poll, 616 of them individually have garnered at least one vote. So there's a fan out there for just about everything. So if you're asking, what about, I'll tell you, somebody voted for it. So if you add your vote, perhaps you will see it rank higher on the poll, but no hints until we get to the official announcement of the results.
I gotta break a hip. I'm still hip, baby. Picking 10 in that poll was tough. And that's the way we like it. Larry, did you put... Yeah, I saw your video. Did you tell... okay. Make sure. Omar, where are you? Peter, where am I? Like you want to know my physical location?
When, Omar? He said when.
Oh, when are you? Oh, man, I'm stuck in 1985, baby. That's when I am. I was gonna... You want to know where I am? Everyone going to map my web on the Aunt May Loves... Aunt May Love Life Omnibus. Yeah, that would be. Amanda, can I give them your address?
Not you outing and doxing them, Omar. Come on.
That's what I do. I just learned what doxing was the other day too, so I can use that in a sentence.
Oh my
What?
God.
Oh my! Wait,
Only
see, this is why we
recently?
need Dom on this panel because Omar, you need some
That's
education.
why he's my
Omar.
intern, man. I gotta keep up. People were using
Gotta
doxing the
keep
other
your
day.
finger
I'm
on
like,
the
what are you
youth
talking
vote.
about?
I try to speak for most of us. I can't speak for all of us, but I try to. You know what? This harkens me to the time when I got yelled at by my friend who was like, he was in middle school, I was in high school, and he berated me for using LMAO in a text, and I went, "What? It's outdated now." And then it had this like whole line of, you know what? Another conversation for another. Why? And every single generation under me, we're constantly evolving and changing our language. It feels like but you know, it is what it is. It's just like
Well, it's like the skull emoji, right? All of a sudden, skull emoji took on all of this meaning. I'm like, I thought it was just a skull. No, generationally,
man. I use it all the time for so many
as a
different
whole
things.
subtext.
Oddfeld used it on me the other day. I'm like, did I kill her with laughter? What did she mean? I thought I was being funny. I'm like, I don't understand. She's dead? What happened? But for real. Last year, Oddfell had she was teaching me how to text. She's like, this is my generation text. Your generation text in paragraphs. I'm like, yes, because I don't want to break my text messages up. And she's like, yes, we have unlimited text now. So let me teach you how my generation.
Make it up into messages. Don't punctuate it.
I was like, what? How does your brain work like that? Oh man, it's hilarious. I have learned a lot just being on the channel and doing this for a living. It's been amazing. So thank you all. You all keeping me young. Me, and Larry, comic books keep us young too, right, buddy?
Oh yeah. And you're talking about the vernacular. Well, the internet really, I think it just completely throws those lines out, because I pick up terms all the time from Reddit and other places that, so I'm sure I get some of them wrong too, but.
Hey, I told you to just come on in.
I know, but I don't like interrupt you while you're on your thing.
Hey, I'm gonna give them your address. People are asking me where I am.
Don't do that.
So they told me I was doxxed.
Hi guys. Don't dox my address.
See, I know what that means now. Don't dox. I got it. If it wasn't for you all, I wouldn't know what it was.
Do you have
What do you
things here?
Yeah.
We're running errands. I need to move your
Okay.
car.
Just
But
don't take off with them though.
I won't. I'll bring them back in.
Yeah, I'm
I'll
almost
put
done.
the eggs in your car too.
Okay.
Yeah, and Corey's just downstairs playing video games.
Okay.
But someone's here to lock the door after you.
Okay.
Cool.
Anything else?
No, that's it, right?
Thank
Have
you.
fun. All right.
Thank you. I'm almost done.
There's that.
Okay. I gotta go and check on some workers at my house. We're getting our basement redone, and they have just texted me saying that, hey, we want you to take a look at this. They had to shut the power off, so I was hanging out with Amanda here and her sister. But before I go, I do want to say thank you to my wonderful panelists and Curtis, who took off a little bit early. Thank you all so much. Oddfell and I are actually holding a panel real live at C2E2.
Real live in real life.
Yeah, like real life. If you're at C2E2 on Saturday at noon, I don't know if that's Eastern time or Central time. I guess I'll have to figure that out. We're going to have a panel about collected editions. So very excited for that. And I get to hang out with Oddfell, and Lars is going to be there.
It's gonna be so fun.
And but before these wonderful folks go, where can people find you all? Peter, kick it off.
I'm Crisis with a K, just about everywhere you could find me talking about comic books on the internet. So if you go to crushingcrisis.com, I cover Marvel's new releases every week. Not only what comes out, but like, what are they? What's in them? What do they come from? Will you like it if you read them? And of course, I've got guides to over 200 Marvel comic book titles and lines, which includes Marvel, DC, indie books, Star Wars, Miracle Man, all sorts of things. And I appear here on Near Mint Condition, where I'm currently helping out with the Tiger Eyes Most Wanted Omnibus poll. Please vote. You have until April the 5th.
Oh, cracking me up in the chat. Larry, what about you?
Hey, I'm Larry's
Where are you?
Library on YouTube. So exactly as it's here at Larry's Library.
What do you do there, buddy?
I show up. I review books. I do top tens, mostly comic books and mostly collected editions. But I veer off into other areas sometimes. But I have a weekly show or a weekly video on Monday, and I do a live stream the first Saturday of every month, and I do a top 10 the first Tuesday of every month. So I have a few little things going. But
Will that C2E2 panel be recorded? We were told no, but we're gonna see. We'll see. We'll see. What about you, Oddfell?
Yeah.
What do you do?
So I do cosplay over on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook under Oddfell. Toy and statue reviews, as well as like vlogs and stuff like that here on YouTube. And then tonight I'll actually be playing D&D in about 2 hours with a bunch of people. That will be streamed live to Twitch. Information will be on my page about that as well. So it'll be fun. We're all playing characters on songs. So if you want to watch some chaos, that'll be a good time.
That sounds awesome. And last but not least, Domovex, where are you, buddy? Where can people
I am
find you?
Domovex here on YouTube and Domovex Studio on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all the social medias. You can find my work at comicreleases.com, where we have solicitations, up-to-date information for collected editions, and everything else of the sort. So if you're looking for written documentation of this, it'll be up on our site in about a couple of weeks when Marvel actually sends us the full solicitations in. You can also find me here. I've helped out Omar on multiple things, like if you see a brand new thumbnail or a video, there is a very, very big and high good chance that I also helped with him on that. So again, super big thank you to Omar for letting me be here again.
You are more than welcome. And I just want to thank you all for being here. Check out cheapgraphicnovels.com. Here in America, they have books up to 50% off and constantly having sales. Tell them Near Mint Edition sent you their way at the checkout for free shipping on your next order. So that's it, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you to David Gabriel and Marvel for letting us announce all these books. Stay healthy and safe out there. We are out of here for now. Bye-bye.